right, there we go. Sorry.
All right, now now I can say it.
Yes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the morning call on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. You can listen to us also on the TuneIn app and, of course, YouTube Live. And it's great to be here with you. It's another Wednesday in the Calumet region, and we'll be here until I think 10 o'clock, although we have some shows coming up this morning.
Nope, you're the only one.
9 o'clock, excuse me, until 9 o'clock. Yeah. So we'll be here until 9 o'clock this morning, and let's go to traffic and weather to begin. Traffic actually looks pretty good throughout the Chicago area right now, with one exception. The Bishop Ford starts to back up right around 115th, and basically looks like there's an accident, so be careful as you go around the turn. If you're used to the Bishop Ford, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it backs up all the way to I-57. The Dan Ryan looks remarkably good at this point in time. All the local expressways in Northwest Indiana, 80, 94, the toll road, Klein Avenue, all look good. And really not seeing a lot of backup in the Chicago area. Now, that may change with the snow squalls that are supposed to hit. So, Lynette, I'm going to let you do the weather, and you can explain further.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 41 degrees with highs of 27 and lows of 15. We'll be having a bit of morning snow up to 1 inch, otherwise cloudy, windy, and much colder. Later tonight we'll be having strong winds subsiding. It should be cloudy and colder again. And then tomorrow on Thursday we'll be having highs of 26 and lows of 22. Should be breezy in the morning, otherwise chilly with some sunshine giving way to clouds. And then Friday, we'll be having highs to 35 and lows of 18, which should be breezy with snow and flurries.
And there you have it, traffic and weather. As Jed said before, when we were doing some mic tests, there are a lot of things to talk about this morning, both locally and nationally. So I'm going to throw out some ideas and look forward to all your calls. Again, we'll be here until 9 a.m. So you've got the Iran situation, which seems to be heating up, and there are some continued threats by President Trump that he's going to take action. Love to hear your comments about that. Of course, IU being in the national championship, that's a conversation that we have to have. There is the ongoing discussions about the Chicago Bears, and I was thinking about this last night. You know, Lynette, last spring, Mayor McDermott, as you know, came in a number of times to talk about his opposition to the convention center. And now the Chicago Bears are talking about locations in Northwest Indiana, and one in particular in Hammond, and wondering if that creates any dilemma for him in garnering support throughout the region for the possible Bears to relocate to Northwest Indiana. I still think that we're kind of a distant third in the running, but you never know. Things may change. The tax structure is much cheaper in Indiana. Construction's much cheaper. Property's much cheaper. So we'll have to see where that goes. Transgender athletes, huge conversation yesterday at the U.S. Supreme Court, where two cases went to the U.S. Supreme Court about transgender athletes. There's the issue about Greenland, and then there's almost a comical sidelight. There's the conversation about Lori Lightfoot and her credit card. So we've got a couple of callers, and we'll go right to the callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, these are items that have appeared in the press involving Indiana or Northwest Indiana, like this morning on Channel 7 out of Chicago, ABC. They had a piece about a Hammond boy on a bike, and he was a victim of a hit and run at the intersection of 169th and Northcott. Do you have that information?
I saw the article, and all I can say is this, is that people forget. Back in the day, it used to be that you didn't ride a bike in the winter, but bicycles are far more popular than they've ever been. And so if you're a motorist, you need to take caution, because especially in this case, basically a child was hit on a bicycle. And I think that a lot of people just forget that bicyclists are out there year round. I knew somebody who used to work at what was then Arcelor Middle and rode his bike every single day. out of the year to work, even in snowstorms. And he was an engineer. And, you've got to be careful because there are people that are out there. I know that some callers have this idea that, well, motorists rule the road. That's not true. Pedestrians and bicycle traffic actually have priority. So you need to be careful. You have to stop for those people. So just be careful out there. No one wants to see anyone injured.
Yeah, it's very noticeable that more and more people are riding bicycles, particularly adults. Used to be, it was basically kids, young people, teenagers. Now there's a lot of, it's surprising how many adults are riding bicycles.
You're right about that. However, I will hearken back to the 1960s when I was growing up in Whiting Robertsdale, and you used to see literally dozens of individuals riding their bicycles every day to the oil refineries and to the steel mills. So people have ridden bicycles for a long time, but you're right, Walt. It's never been more popular than it is now, and you have to share the road. You have to be careful.
Also on Channel 7, ABC out of Chicago, they had a piece about Governor Brown, Indiana Governor Brown, making a speech about, I think, legislative priorities. And then they showed the picture. It wasn't Governor Brown. It was Governor Holcomb.
Well,
I'm sure ABC got some calls on that one.
Well, you know what? Mike Braun, just not a guy that creates any spark in me. I have to say I enjoyed Eric Holcomb as governor. I thought that he did some right things, and he was a Republican who basically was a centrist, was able to reach out across the aisle, and served the state very well. Mike Braun is a diehard Republican. He basically only worries about his agenda and nobody else's. And I have a feeling that Mike Braun's going to have some trouble in a couple of years when he comes up for re-election. Just my thought, but he doesn't seem to have the same connection, that spark that you look for in a politician. He doesn't seem to have that. Holcomb did, and again, it's early. He's only been in for a year, but I think that people, when they find out in a year or two what he actually came up with his tax cuts, people are going to be very upset because, once again, as I've said many times before, you don't take, basically tell people you're going to put $5 in their left pocket and then take $30 out of their right pocket and tell them that they got a tax break. And that's exactly what he's done. He's just shifting the tax burden to local communities, and then he's giving them no choice. They have to do it. It's just kind of like the old option income tax in Lake County. It wasn't an option; it was a requirement. And people still have different views on that. But when you really look at what they did, they made it a requirement. And I think that Braun's going to have some problems in a few years.
Well, talking about the Bears situation. On Sunday morning, I was watching Inside Indiana Business, and they featured Mayor McDermott talking about, guess what, the Bear Stadium situation. And the interesting thing about this is he said nothing but nice things about Governor Brown. On this is Indiana Inside Indiana Business is a public television program. But when he was on WJOB recently, he really trashed Governor Brown as very unpopular, and he commented about how he attended a Indiana mayor's conference and how many Republican mayors trashed Brown. They did talk about the possible location of a Bear Stadium, and they said Robertsdale neighborhood. How do you feel about that?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think that, once again, as I said this morning, there's a bit of a dilemma for McDermott. He took on a number of mayors in Northwest Indiana, especially Eddie Melton, over the convention center. And then he got into a series of arguments with Governor Braun. Remember, he even organized protesters for Braun's fundraiser in downtown Hammond. And all of a sudden, we moved the calendar forward 3 or 4 months. Now we need Governor Braun, we need Mayor Melton and everybody else in regard to the Bears endeavor. I personally think that the Bear Stadium, the likelihood of going into Robertsdale, I know the site quite well. I still think it's fairly unlikely. I don't really see the Bears wanting to move to Northwest Indiana. I think they're using us as leverage with the city of Chicago
Right.
and the state of Illinois. But you never say never. It would be a game changer if it happens. I'm not going to say I wouldn't support the concept, but the likelihood is about the same as you getting hit by a meteorite on your bicycle today. And I don't think you plan on riding a bicycle.
Well, this is a repeat of what the Bears did back in the 90s. But again, this morning on uh, Channel 7 ABC, they talked about the Bears situation, and they related that Arlington Heights interests are stepping forward and talking some. It looks to me like they're sweetening the offer over their site and saying that their site is superior. And then they had Governor Pritzker suggesting that maybe the state of Illinois would be willing to provide some infrastructure support to the Bears if they stayed in Illinois. And but
Pritzker is the one guy that makes Governor Braun clearly look good. No matter what Braun does, Pritzker is going to make him look good because Pritzker's a disaster. And I think that this is exactly what the Bears have been contemplating the entire time. We're going to go over to Indiana. We're going to dangle the concept of moving to Northwest Indiana. We're going to make it look really, really likely. And at the same time, we're going to box Pritzker into a corner and we're going to make him break loose with some money. And it appears that Pritzker, all of a sudden, who's been very strong in opposing any public financing, any assistance for the Bears, all of a sudden now is saying, well, maybe I can do something on infrastructure. And infrastructure, that's a pretty broad definition. And so I think it's working in the Bears' favor, and that's what they want. Hey, Walt, I know we've got other callers, so I'm going to have to let you go. Thanks so much. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got another caller, so we'll go right to that caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Tom.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hey, now that you're back down there, I know you don't know the temperature of your pool up here, but what's the temperature of the pools down there? Swimming pools.
The temperature of the pool's down here in the 80s. The temperature of the pool in back home would not register because when the pump is off, there's no way of measuring the temperature. So the thermostat is built into the pump into the heating system, and so with it winterized, the temperature is probably 33 degrees, just below freezing. The water never freezes in an in-ground pool. It's almost impossible because it's sitting underground, of course. So you'd have to have a ground freeze 7 feet down, and that's probably not very likely. I don't think that's ever happened. So part of the pool will always stay liquid.
He was talking about which I saw in the news, which Walt was talking about that bicyclist, the hit and run in Hammond. Thing is
Mm-hmm.
I live over here in Hammond, and I get up at 5 in the morning, get my coffee, and sit here. And there's a motorcycle guy that comes down my street because when I used to have to get up and leave at a certain time, when I heard that motorcycle go past my house, I knew it was time to shut the TV off and get out the house. But lately now, this is January, because I get up, I'm retired, I'm enjoying, I'm doing all these surveys and stuff, and last week, this guy on this motorcycle is coming past my house at the same time again, so he must love riding his motorcycle in January. So we got to still be careful because there's still some people out there that are riding their motorcycles in January.
I've seen that too. And I always wonder, what do they do about frostbite, right? Because your face has to be just frozen. If you're driving at 40 miles an hour and it's 35 degrees, your face has to be just frozen riding a motorcycle. But
Well,
as you said, people do it. People do it, and they enjoy it, evidently.
Well, it just might be like them two wonderful movie stars, Dumb and Dumber, going to somewhere and they're frozen on a little go-kart mini bike, you know. But you know
what? Anything's possible. But let's face it. You drove for many years. That was your career, and you just have to be careful. You've got motorcyclists, you've got pedestrians, you've got bicyclists, and you never know when you're going to encounter one. And as
now,
you know,
you
have to be careful.
A thing about the winter time is I had my hands get frostbite one time. Luckily, I got to the hospital and got taken care of because my thumb, oh my God, was it humongous. But what happens is I wasn't paying attention. I was somewhere where it was snowing all day. It was cold, and I didn't have these gloves that had rubber on the outside and insulation on the inside. And I was trying to chain and secure my load. My gloves got wet. I kept going inside the truck, putting them in, getting them warmed up, and then I'd put them back on, go out, and then it wasn't that day, but the next morning I wake up, my hand was huge. It's like when you're doing stuff outside when it's cold and you're wearing gloves, don't wear them gloves when they're wet because that's worse to get a frostbite.
Well, Mike, a lot of people get very cold hands and frostbitten hands when they're at Bears games. So in the current configuration, so what do you think the chances are? I mean, you've been around here for a long time. What do you think the chances are of the Bears actually building in Northwest Indiana?
I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah, I really don't see it as likely.
No, I mean, you know, I've seen what they've been talking, and it's just they're ruffling everybody's feathers and getting everybody trying to get excited. But can I switch? I'm going to let you go in a second, but can I switch over about Minnesota real quick?
Sure you can.
Okay, the Democrat governor, Waltz, and the Democrat mayor, Frey, up in Minneapolis, is getting everything roughed up about ICE's situation. And they keep wanting to show that up because of simple reason. The people of Minnesota should pay attention to their governor, Democrat Governor Waltz, let all that fraud go on up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, all that federal money coming there, the fraud. But they're bringing up this ICE situation to try to not get it on national news and get out there but they need to get that put back up there because the people of Minnesota need to realize, you know, what their governor has done, how much fraud, and that mayor of Minneapolis let all that go on. You know, they need to bring all that back up. That one little independent reporter got their auto roughed up, you know, and I mean, I'm sick of hearing about the ICE. Bring back.
Well, it is a distraction. It's a distraction. It's a distraction for the fraud investigations that are going on in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. You're absolutely right. And Walz and Fry are astute enough to know that those protests are drawing away the attention that should be focused on the fraud that's going on. The fraud is unbelievable. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. People have seen the video by Nick Shirley, who's an independent journalist, and you know he's taken now a rap. They're trying to paint him as some extremist, and he's not. And the fact is that he and others have shown that there's tremendous fraud. And again, Walz is a politician. Somebody described him as a Middle Western dad. He's not. He's a politician. Through and through, and he's using the news media to benefit his reputation when he should be held accountable for what's going on. So we'll leave it at that, and hopefully others want to join in and talk about that issue this morning. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for the call. We've got to take a break.
Okay.
All right, and with that, let's go to a quick commercial break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Are you sausage curious?
Who's ready for Polish?
Big Frank Sausage has the very best Polish food in the region.
You had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage?
We have a full bar, dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and catering available.
I've had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
I've got a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
219-378-9556. Smacznego i na zdrowie.
Who's ready for Polish?
High school basketball postseason is here, with the girls starting February 3rd and boys March 3rd. Be on every game for as low as $1,500. Sponsor local. Reach millions. Visit heartlandsportsnet.com today for more information. St. Nicholas Byzantine Catholic Church, located at 8103 Columbia Avenue in Munster, celebrates Divine Liturgy every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. We are Eastern Rite Catholics in union with the Pope, the Bishop of Rome. All Catholics who celebrate Divine Liturgy or Mass with us fulfill their Holy Day and Sunday obligations as they do in their own churches. Join us in person this coming Sunday to find out the beauty of a Byzantine Catholic Divine Liturgy at St. Nicholas Church.
But it's time. You gotta catch up. Yeah. I'll catch up with you. I'll be right back. I'll see you in a minute.
Anything else? Yeah.
Well, what's up, boy? Hey, Ryan. Not tonight, man. Not tonight. Oh, yeah. You guys are right. Hey, come on. Let's go. Come in.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
All right, we're back. Are we?
Yes.
All right, we're back, and it's the morning call on WJOB. Great to be here with you this morning. I have to chuckle. I listened to a couple of those ads this morning. First off, Sam Michael is absolutely right. You need to tune into Heartland Sports Network and see all the great basketball that's being covered by Heartland. It's a must-see, so don't forget that. That's coming up, of course, this weekend. High school basketball is very best in Northwest Indiana. And then there was the ad for Calumet College. And Lynette, I don't know if you caught the ad, but I'm just thinking about it. If the Bears were to locate at the south end of Wolf Lake, Calumet College could actually claim that they have an NFL team on their campus because it'd be right down the street from them. That would be pretty wild. I mean, I could just imagine Calumet College's ads all of a sudden, attend Calumet College with an NFL team on our campus. But we'll leave that for a different point in time. We've got some callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah.
Good morning. Yes.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah. It was about the Bears.
Yes.
They got a nice place they could put it in Hammond, but they'd have to tear down a bunch of houses, and I don't know how they would, if they would get fair market or eminent domain. I don't know, but. Like from Lyman, 165th and Lyman, where the train is, the new South Shore, all the way from 165th to the Expressway, from Lyman to Madison. That's a Calumet, but there's a lot of stores and a lot of things on Calumet Avenue, so you don't want to tear that down. So go to Madison, 165th to the Expressway, and then you got Calumet,
So basically, you're not going as far. You're not going as far as Holman Avenue. You're going from Madison to Calumet, basically from 165th. You're saying south to the Expressway.
Right, and then Lyman to Madison. Lyman is just before Holman Avenue because you got a lot of nice churches and stuff over there. You don't want to tear that down because you're going to need more property for parking than you are the stadium.
Yeah, well, that's one of the problems with the location that they're identifying up in Robertsdale. So they're saying, well, the city already owns a lot of that property, and that's true, they do. But you need a lot more property than down to 129th Street. You'd have to go across 129th. You've got a huge substation for NIPSCO that would cost hundreds of millions of dollars to relocate. But when you're talking billions of dollars, it's not necessarily a barrier. but you'd have to probably go down as far south as Klein Avenue. So your idea is to put it in South Hammond, and it puts it right next to 8094.
8094, and then it also takes you, like they do in Chicago. They jump on the South Shore, they get off on 23rd or right there by the stadium, the Soldier Field, and they'd be getting right off there. I mean, I would build it like on Harrison, Monroe, and all that area in there, because as soon as you get off the train, you're looking at the stadium. It's right there.
Now, why would you choose that location, though? Why specifically? Because as you said, you'd have to go with eminent domain. You take down hundreds upon hundreds of properties.
Well, see, that's the only drawback. I mean, if the Bears or the state could give you your value of your home, I mean, then I would say, yeah, take it. But well, number one, that area over there we're talking, it's contaminated. It's been contaminated. You ever ride your bike? I used to ride my bike from South Hammond to Walhalla Beach, and you go down Sheffield. As soon as you get under the tunnel, underneath the toll road, there's that one brick house, and then you got the same side where the 41 Theater used to be.
Right.
Outdoor Theater, 41. Right across the street, they had that's whatever that was. Man, it smelled so bad. I mean, Toxic City.
But that was the old Kyle Chemical site that you're talking about. It was the old Kyle Chemical, but that's now owned by Dover. And, I don't know if they'd actually have to take the Dover site. There's contamination over there. There's no doubt about that. The old 41 Outdoor has contamination. That's why that site hasn't been built on. But this day and age, you never say never about anything. So the rest of the property, though, is not contaminated. And so if you configure the stadium to the north, where the park property is, you could put the parking on the south. And if you put down concrete, you can probably seal the contamination into the ground. But again, that seems to be the site that they prefer.
And then Gary, you look at that, Gary's got more property, open land that I don't think is as polluted as the one they're talking about in Hammond. But the only thing is they'd have to stop that convention center, because the taxpayers aren't going to be paying us, putting the bill for a convention center and the Bears. It's just too
once again, the challenge is, first off, as I see it, the challenge is transportation, right? So the biggest problem with the so-called preferred site in Hammond is the surface transportation. So once you get off the toll road, the toll road would be the feeder. You'd be on Calumet. Calumet is basically 2 lanes in each direction. You might be able to squeeze in a third lane coming from the south from the toll road. You've got Klein Avenue, but it's still going to be heavily congested. You're not going to be able to expand the street from the north unless you take out an awful lot of businesses and a lot of homes on Calumet, and kind of the same is true on Indianapolis Boulevard to a certain extent. So you're not going to have a lot of public transportation, that's for sure, other than buses, but you could run a shuttle from the South Shore. Again, is the site a legitimate site? I suppose it is. But is it a realistic site? That's a different story, because I still believe that the Bears are looking at Arlington Heights and at downtown Chicago, and they're using us as leverage at this point. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And again, I just don't want us to be used.
Right. Well, it's already out there. But, how about when you were running the Pierogi Fest? What was there? You get 100,000 every day for 3 days, or 80,000?
Yep, we draw a lot of people.
Yeah, and so where did they all park? They made it. They found a place to park.
They parked.
Yeah, I know, in the alleys and stuff like that.
Well, traffic was pretty horrendous, and I'll give that. There are some people that don't like Pierogi Fest because of all the traffic that comes in. And again, I'm not saying that you can't do it. There's a little difference when you have tens of thousands of people attending a festival. They're attending in waves. They're coming in, they're coming out. So that's during the course of a day. When you have a NFL game, they're all coming at one time. So you have that saturation of the area at one time. And again, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think the likelihood of locating in Northwest Indiana is still pretty low compared to the other two sites. The Bears own the one site, and the second one is owned by the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And I don't see Illinois and Chicago just surrendering in this battle for a new location. I just don't see them walking away and saying, "Okay, Northwest Indiana, you get it." I just don't see them doing that.
Plus the fact that they build it, it's got to be at least 75,000 seats, 75,000 for them to get a Super Bowl.
To get a Super Bowl and to get other events, and you're absolutely right. Look, they're building. They need a new stadium because Soldier Field doesn't have enough seating. That's the biggest issue. Okay, and frankly, the retrofit of Soldier Field looks like a giant toilet seat was put on top of Soldier Field. It doesn't work. It never has. And people who go to the stadium, regular ticket holders, tell me that it's really, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems for parking, congestion, you name it. And I just don't think that, the Bears have made it clear they're not going to stay there, and for good reason. You look at competing facilities like Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, and the Bears keep on saying, "Hey, look, where's our next stadium going to be?" And I get that. I just don't know that they're going to put it in Northwest Indiana. But hey, thanks so much for the call. We've got some more callers, so we got to move on. Thank you so much. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Pretty good. I just wanted to get your opinion on something that was in the news every day a month or two ago, like every single day. You couldn't avoid it. The Epstein files and the Clintons refusing to testify after being subpoenaed. What do you think? What's your take on that?
I had that on my list of things to talk about today, but I figured that we probably wouldn't get to it. I think that the Clintons clearly have something to hide. I still believe that all these Democrats that thought that this was going to be the trap that they were going to set for Donald Trump, he basically outsmarted them. He played possum, and they found out that the dirt is on the Clintons, especially on Bill, and I think there's a lot of problems. And the Epstein files continue to come out. I go back to Virginia Giuffre, who was the primary accuser of Prince Andrew and everybody else, and she's the one that brought this whole thing to light about Epstein. When you read her comments and her testimony and even her book, she says that Donald Trump was always a very decent guy. He seemed to be concerned, and she gave him a pass on the whole thing. Do I think that Donald Trump is this great moralistic character? Absolutely not. But I think that in this case, Trump was smart enough to play possum, and now the Democrats have a real problem. Bill Gates all of a sudden has clammed up. He's very quiet. He's a major donor to the Democratic Party. You've got, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton somehow is involved as well. I haven't totally understood what her involvement is yet, but I'm sure it'll come out. And I think that that the Epstein files, again, continue to be released. And I think as we go, we're going to find out that there's more and more individuals that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein that's going to make your skin crawl. And I'm sorry, but Bill Clinton was a decent president, did some things personally that I didn't like, but as a president, he was an okay president, and the economy did well. We got ourselves embroiled in some overseas issues and incidents that we didn't need to be involved in, but Trump's kind of doing the same thing. So I can give him a pass on that, because every president gets us involved in things overseas that we shouldn't get involved in. But when it comes to his legacy, he's going to be tarred and feathered over the Epstein files. I just guarantee it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, that is going to be what he's remembered for when all is said and done. And I think it's just crazy how the left, so to speak, was just clamoring for this over and over. I mean, every day that's all you heard about: release them, release them, release them, and now it's going to backfire. But with today's media, if it's bad, it just gets shoved under the rug. So you don't hear anything about it if it's bad on the left. So.
You're right about that, and I'm glad that you called in and brought that up, because once again, the Epstein files were such a huge issue 2 or 3 months ago, as you said, and now is all of a sudden, who? Yeah, they forgot about it.
Yeah, they forgot about it. Yeah. Hey, well, real quick, what would actually tongue in cheek, Bears' new stadium site? Put it on one side of the quarry and have your parking on the other side. You could just fill it in.
Just put a dome over it, right?
I know it's never going to happen, and they want to get out of Illinois if that's still under Pritzker's umbrella. But it actually, there's enough room there, and you wouldn't you could just cover the top and then build the stadium down. It would be pretty iconic.
It would be unique, but a lot of people don't realize it, but the north side of the expressway, the old quarry on the north side, of course, is used as water storage for flood control.
Yeah, I do know that, but I don't know how much has ever even been in there. So
it's been filled. It's been filled several times, actually. It's been filled to the brim several times. It was filled to the brim this past August or September when we had the floods. It was filled to the brim.
Oh, I had no idea. So, all right, thanks, Tom. You do a great job.
Thank you so much. Thanks for calling. 845-1100. We have some additional callers. No, why don't we go ahead and why don't we take a quick break? You're listening to the morning call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. You can listen to us, of course, on the TuneIn app and YouTube Live. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up, apologizes, and welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
All right, we're back, and just got a text from a friend of mine who is driving in downtown Chicago, and he said, Tom, you need to check out the backup on the Dan Ryan, and sure enough, it looks like it's backing up almost to Garfield Boulevard. So I would suggest that you take Lakeshore Drive this morning if you're going into downtown. Doesn't look too bad to me right now. For the most part, it's pretty clear until you get to downtown, so not bad sailing there. The Bishop Ford continues to be backed up starting around 115th, and that now leads all the way to the Ryan. So there you go. So maybe avoid those areas. The Skyway is moving well. You can take the Skyway to Stony Island Avenue and then cut up to Lakeshore Drive. You'll get to see the view of the beautiful new Obama Library, and I say that tongue-in-cheek because I think it's the ugliest building ever built in America. But you can go take that in. But 845-1100, we've been talking about a number of things. The Bears Stadium is obviously one. Want to hear what you have to say about us getting involved in Iran. Now, President Trump has basically made some threats against the Iranian leadership and says that if they continue to execute people, if they continue to incarcerate people for protesting, that he's willing to take action, and he's made the threat. So 845-1100, love to hear what you have to say about that. My own feeling is that there are despots around the world. There are horrible people around the world. It's why so many people want to come to America. But the fact is that we really don't have a responsibility or a say in what goes on in Iran. And I know that sounds a little out of character for a Christian who does worry about their fellow man. But I just think that it's an area that we need to stay out of. We've not fared well over the years in the Middle East. Whenever we have intervened, we're part of the reason why the Shah basically was deposed and the Ayatollahs took over in Iran. So I'd love to hear your comments about that. And then we've been talking about this issue of the bears locating in Northwest Indiana, but I want to throw out one more issue. The testimony yesterday before the U.S. Supreme Court on the issue of transgender athletes, men being in women's sports, was quite riveting, quite impressive. I said to my wife, how would you like to be an attorney that has to testify before the U.S. Supreme Court? Do you think that you're going to get a pass from someone like maybe Justice Thomas? Yet Clarence Thomas was asking questions. Brett Kavanaugh was asking questions. Alito were asking questions of the conservative view yesterday, just as much as Sotomayor and Kagan. So when you go before the U.S. Supreme Court, it looks to me and sounds to me like you get chopped up no matter who you are and whatever your position is. So love to hear your views on that as well. 845-1100, as Lynette said, we're going to be here until 9 o'clock. We've got some callers, so we'll go to the callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I would love to touch on all those things. I was a guy a couple weeks ago who brought up the Bears the first time, and you thought they're using us. But I wanted to go to something else that you are kind of the voice and face of Whiting, even though you're not an elected official and probably would prefer not to be that. I went to the pierogi drop, and I don't live terribly close. Let's just leave it that way. I can't really get WJOB on the radio terribly well, so it tells you the distance I am. It was easy to get to, even though it was kind of icy that day. And we turned off and got over at Atchison, and the city. It's funny because an outsider doesn't know where that was held was technically, I guess, Hammond, and just across the street is Whiting. And Hammond did a wonderful job of posting "Don't park here" on the fencing by the church and all that. And I turned around. I was like, "Holy cow! I got lucky as heck." Right there's one spot open in front of Notre Dame Federal Credit Union, and the signs in front of us said, "Hey, no, you can only 2-hour parking from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m." And I'm looking for any other signs in front of me. Nothing. Went inside. Knights Columbus had a wonderful time. The polka band, we came out before the fireworks. A lot of fun. The fireworks going off, and my wife and sister-in-law are having a riot. My brother-in-law's face is kind of just blank. I'm like, what's going on here? So we're going to go to the car and get some out. Guess what? The car was not there.
They towed your car.
So I would just want to explain. And when I pulled in, there's like a van or something parked on the far west side of the parking, little strip there as you got towards Atchison, because they're blocking off Atchison for the food trucks and everything. And we weren't going to be there just 2 hours before. When we came out, the street signs on the very west side had the same stuff, but towards the middle of the pole, not even up by where the signage was, said, "No parking between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m." You couldn't see it. And Hammond did a wonderful job. And I just want to say, City of Whiting, we come all the time for Pierogi Fest. We come for ball games. So my nephew plays at Calumet College St. Joe. You got to do a better job of marking places. I learned a lesson. I paid $200. But, because at first they're saying, when I was trying to call to get anyone, and the Whiting police officers were terrific. Don't get me wrong. You had to deal with domestics. You've got to post things better than that, especially for outsiders, unless, and I don't think you're trying to do this, but unless you're trying to make $200, between the towing truck company and whatever.
I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the case. I can tell you, I've been involved with the Pierogi Drop for a number of years. I usually do the fireworks, of course. Greg Kaplan's a friend of mine, and Greg Kaplan usually provides the fireworks, crazy Kaplans, and I usually handle the fireworks end. This year, because my daughter got married that same night, I wasn't there at all. I was down in Fishers, Indiana. So I wasn't there firsthand, but I do know that they always block off parking on both sides of the line, both Whiting and Hammond. Usually Whiting has their signs up even before Hammond. So I don't know what happened. I'm sorry to hear what happened to you, but I can tell you that in years past, I've seen Whiting signs up there the day before the event. So I don't know what happened this year. The other thing that you always have to be careful about, and I had this happen a few years ago at Pierogi Fest, is you get people, whether it's kids or just people who think it's funny, is they go and they remove those signs. They'll cut the strap. Usually Whiting straps there are no parking signs to the pole, and people will go by and somebody will cut the strap and take the sign down and then stand back and think it's funny to watch somebody get their car towed. And I've seen that. I know that for a fact. I had that happen during Pierogi Fest one year where a guy basically was going and cutting the signs down because he thought it was funny to do. So some people have a strange sense of humor, and it happens everywhere and anywhere. But I just wonder if that wasn't the case, because again, usually I can tell you Whiting has their signs out there even before Hammond. And as you said, Hammond does a great job, but so does Whiting. They block parking on both sides all the way to the boulevard, which is only a block, but they usually have it signed a day or two before.
Yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't the sawhorses out in time to block that area up, because I was like, well, apparently you can block there because there's already 3 cars in one spot open. I was like, oh, that's, in the future I'll know, but we looked at the signs in front of us. There's nothing, and you're probably right, and because everyone was great. The only negative issue is we had to go inside the KFC again to ask as a Hammond. I said, well, yeah, you're going to have to walk down. So we walked down to the Whiting Police Station as we're calling, and we had to get through Lake County Dispatch. It worked out. We didn't have to wait till, that was Wednesday night? We'd have to wait till Friday, the holiday, try to get the car back. Plus, we had to drive 55 minutes. Hey, I would like to talk about the Supreme Court, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
This is a little bit something I know a little bit about the Constitution and these type of things. It's interesting. Years ago, you could have individuals of different races marry each other in good chunks of the country. And that Supreme Court upheld that in the 60s. Then they probably, 10 years ago, they allowed people of the same gender get married. But I'll be honest.
About 11 years ago now.
Someone who deals with athletics, there's a huge, huge difference between males and females. Even if you just watch the videos of those transgender individuals playing volleyball, hitting the ball so hard that, it gives girls concussions and stuff. And as someone who's a father of a girl, I want her competing against the best people of her gender on an equal platform. And if they're putting in more time, or God bless them because they're bigger, stronger, faster, that's okay. But, if my wife and I were to go compete in a weightlifting contest, she doesn't have a chance just because of how God made us. And I'll just hang up and listen to your response. Thank you.
No, I'll tell you what, thank you so much. I think that you're absolutely right. There are differences between males and females. And, one of the things that I found most interesting yesterday was Justice Coney Barrett, who brought up the issue and said, do we have to make an exception for absolutely everything in the United States? Is it possible to even do so? And the attorney who was representing the transgender athlete admitted that we can't make an exception for every single person so that every person can be included. She also raised the question of what about transgenders competing in men's sports rather than compete in female sports. So it was a very, very interesting exchange amongst all of the justices. And it was a fabulous couple of hours to listen to, and I had the good fortune to be able to do it. 845-1100, we've got another caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning,
yes, go
Tom.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Don't listen through your radio, though. We're live. Go ahead.
I don't have my radio on. I got television kind of. Okay, Tom. Let's go. You started early on about the Bears.
Yes.
I'm a union person, and I believe I know how that operates. A lot of times, in order for them to get more money from Illinois, they have to say, "Well, we're going to come to Indiana." That's not going to happen. You got it.
Okay. And Ron, let's face it, that's what's really going on, right?
I say it's a negotiating tool, what it is. And I know by me being a former local 1010 union official, I know how that works. You know, we threaten the company with this. If we don't do this, we're going to shut down. We're going to do this, and then we get more. So right now, it'll be built in Illinois, no doubt about it. And I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see it come here to whether it be to Gary or Hammond. It doesn't matter, just as long as it comes to Indiana. You know.
That's right. But let's also be realistic for a second. I mean, Ron, you're a big supporter in Northwest Indiana, but as you said before, this is a negotiating tactic, and we're being used largely so that the Bears can have leverage against the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago.
Now, let's go a little bit further. I agree with you on our current governor. I'm a Democrat, but I loved Holcomb. He was a great guy. I mean, he knew how to be equal. He came to our community, and he used to always say, and you know how I loved him for that, because he said, I'm going to be in Gary so much till you think I live in Gary, you know. And then we have another governor who's coming in, and apparently he is doing the bidding of Donald Trump, and we've seen that doing the redistricting. We've seen that doing the redistricting, how he was following, and of course he lost out there too. So I'm just simply saying that, and at least I want. You said another thing, and I'm just going to some of the things that I was listening closely. You was talking about us interfering with other countries when we have no damn business being with this situation all over the world. Every day I wake up, Tom, we fight with somebody else. If you come into America, and offend us, you know, we have a right to defend our country. I believe that. You know, I was in the Vietnam War, and they didn't want us, they didn't love us. They told us, go home. We over here trying to help you all. We had no business. And one president of the United States, and I knew you know who that person was, said he will not run or accept a draft to be president for another term. And you know who that was? That was Lyndon Dean Johnson, right?
That's right. But Johnson only did that, Ron, because Johnson also knew that he was underwater. I will say this. Look, first of all, hold on. First of all, you brought up a couple of things. I totally agree with you about this issue of involvement. You served this country. You were a Vietnam veteran, and you've told me before, and you've told others. And in fact, I want to talk about this as you and I talked off the air last week in May about your service in Vietnam, because there's a number of stories that get glossed over about Vietnam, and we need to remember history, but we haven't learned. You know, one of the things that Trump ran on was that he was not going to get us involved in overseas wars, right? That was one of his big platforms. And now he's talking about going into Iran, and he's talking about going after Colombia, and he's going to go after anybody and everybody. And you know, I just wish the guy could shut up sometime and not say some of the things that he says. Whether he means it or not, I don't think we want to threaten that we're going into Iran, because there's plenty of terrorists out there that can come over here and drive a truck through a parade route or explode a bomb, and we don't need that.
Yeah, and see, actually right now, what we are faced with a world war, because I would love for somebody to come in here, and Maduro is a bad guy. Make no mistake about it. But what if somebody would come in and say Trump is a bad guy in America, take us out and bomb some other thing? I don't think it was the right way.
We lost you for a second.
Hello?
Go ahead again.
So I'm just simply saying that I don't know where this thing's going to lead to. Every morning I wake up. Tomorrow it's going to be something else about going in. And as an African American in Minnesota, yes, there were some things going on in Minnesota. I agree with that. But right now, when he said these are garbage people, black. These garbage people. Basically, he made a general statement that these are garbage people. You know, don't come in. He said that the same thing about in other countries, that these are garbage. And not every person from even
Ron,
garbage. You know,
Ron,
we're not garbage. Yes,
Ron. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton made similar comments about Trump supporters. So this idea of calling people, it's all wrong. But I want to go back to something that you brought up earlier about Braun, and people don't realize. And Dave from Gary, you know Dave Gehrman, he's brought this up. He's one of the few people, and I think you and I talked about it last week when we were talking personally, and that is the mess that Braun is making with taxes and local governments in the state of Indiana. People don't realize what's coming. He has basically said, I'm going to give you a $300 tax break. So it sounds great. You're going to get $300 off on your property taxes, but I'm going to up your local taxes by $800. So in reality, he's telling us that he's giving us a $300 tax break, but it's going to cost us $500 more a year to live in Northwest Indiana. And in the process, he's going to ruin these communities because he's cutting so much of their tax base that they're not going to be able to afford police, fire, road maintenance. All those things are going to be in jeopardy because of what Braun came up with, and it's just smoke and mirrors. And I just wish that more than 3 people, you, I, and Dave Gehrman, talked about it, because if you think that there's problems that exist now, just wait until Braun's so-called tax relief program really kicks into high gear. It's really sad, and I just don't like Mike Braun.
Yeah, and what about this thing? Want a toll road for the I-94? All this stuff. That was terrible. I'm talking about turning it into a toll road. You know, did you remember him saying something about that? Wanted to do that toll road to Interstate 8094.
Well, 8094 and I-65 as well. I think Mike Braun is a governor that really is truly, if Indiana has had one in recent history, I'm not aware of it, but I think Mike Braun is trying to be a one-term governor in Indiana. I really do. I mean, Pence was a one-term governor, but he ran for vice president. But in the case of Braun, I think he just wants to be a one-term governor. So, Ron, thank you so much for calling. We got a number of other calls.
Hello, can I say this? Can I say this?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
I met Mike Braun here. He came to Gary a few months ago to FedEx. We got a FedEx coming there, and I went up and I shook his hand. I didn't shake his hand as a Democrat or Republican. I appreciate you coming and anything you can do for our community. That's being a good person, not saying, well, you're a Republican. I didn't do that. I say because he was coming, but he did come here to FedEx, and I welcomed him here, and I hope that he would come back and do some things. That's the only thing I was asking. Okay, with that, have a great show.
Hey, thanks, Ron. 845-1100. We've got more callers, so we'll go right to the next caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, you're talking about. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Hey, you talk about the fraud of Minnesota. Next time you're driving, and this is everybody listening, next time you're driving around Northwest Indiana, take a look at, I think we might have several of our own Leering centers.
Really? Where is that at?
You know, just go look around. You see them. Well, I don't want to say where I saw them at, but these Leering centers, these places are empty. There's nobody there.
You know, I
It
know
looks
of
just like
one.
Minnesota.
I do know of one in Whiting that is a converted home on Indianapolis Boulevard near Arnie's, and I never see any kids there. So I just, I thought, well,
I got
okay, it
two
was
in Dyer.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The parking lots are empty.
Well,
right there.
you know, I thought that the one near me, I just thought, well, maybe they never opened. But now that you raised the point, it is kind of strange that you put up all the signs, you do all these improvements or changes to the property, and you never see any kids. And you're saying you've got two in Dyer that are operating the same way.
Yeah, I mean, and now and they've been there for I can't tell you how long, but now ever since you heard about this, I'm putting two and two together here, and I'm like, maybe this is just like one of these scams that just it's so easy they just do it everywhere,
You may have hit on something that's being overlooked right now. And I'm gonna call somebody today and suggest that they do some more research on this, because you've hit on something that I never thought about. But could we be as guilty as Minnesota when it comes to the so-called early childhood learning centers? Because you see these places and you don't see any kids there.
I never even it would have never crossed my mind if you didn't hear about this crap going on in Minnesota. And after that, I'm driving, I'm scratching my head, I'm looking, I'm like, I ain't never seen a kid walk in or out of that place or that place over there. So, maybe something for people to look out on. Just pay attention.
Wow. That's an interesting story. I'm going to give it to a friend of mine and ask them to take a look at it.
Well, I'm going to look into the one over the two over by me, and I'll call you back Wednesday, and we'll see if we found anything here.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's continue this conversation. Yep. With that, I know we have callers on hold. If you can just hang in there a few minutes, because Lynette's giving me the signal that we've got to take a break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and YouTube Live. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
Looking for a place to enjoy great food and great games? Head to Doc's Barbecue in Dyer. Indulge in Southern-style hickory smoked meats served in a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Want to catch the latest local Jet TV basketball games? Just ask and they'll have it on one of their 15 big-screen TVs. Whether you're here for the food, the fun, or the hoops, Doc's has something for everyone. Stop by Doc's Smokehouse on Calumet Avenue in Dyer, where flavor and sports come together.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Open 7 days a week in 4 convenient locations: Highland, Griffith, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, air freshener, and a towel with every wash. It's fast, safe, and gentle. For more information and hours of all our locations, visit myeasyclean.com. Also, see how you can wash your car daily with our $10 Ultimate Wash for only $19.99 per month. Give your car the best clean at Easy Clean Car Wash.
Tell the folks where they can find the French Room.
Fridays, 3 to 5 Central.
And where can they listen?
On WJOB, AM 1230, 104.7 FM.
I believe those are the radio people. Who the hell's that?
I have no idea. But you could listen worldwide on TuneIn.com or watch on JetTV.com.
Get your Jet TV, the French Room.
With Marla Kubik.
Variety,
sometimes at its finest.
All right, we're back, and I know we have callers, and I'll tell you what, though. Lynette, let me ask you, do you have any of those little learning centers around you where you live?
I'm not too sure.
You know, that caller touched on something. I know of a couple of them up in Whiting, Robertsdale, and I never see any kids there. And so I just figured, well, it was an initiative that didn't go anywhere. But that caller has raised a very interesting issue. He says there's 2 in Dyer. I can think 2 by me. There are a number of these little daycare facilities, and you never see any kids there. And are they getting federal grants? That's an interesting question. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got callers, so we'll go right to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning,
Good
Tom.
morning. Yes, good morning.
Ilhan Omar Matlock. You remember her quote?
Which
Tom?
quote?
Some people did something. You
Well,
remember that?
I don't think Ron was defending her or anybody else. He didn't really talk about Minnesota.
You're exactly right, Tom. He did not want to talk about Minnesota and the Democrat fraud in the billions. He gets on here every day and wants to slam Trump. But when you mention Minnesota, Ron skimmed over that very quickly. Some people did something. We're in the billions in Democratic fraud. And that's
Well, let me ask you. Hold on. Let me ask you a question. But let me ask you a question. You heard the previous caller. Do you think that there are people scamming in Northwest Indiana with these learning centers? Because, the previous caller said that there are 2 in Dyer. I can think of several up by me, and I never see any kids there. And it just makes me wonder, is this fraud with these childhood learning centers more widespread than we think it is?
Very possibly could be. But we know for a fact right now that Minnesota is experiencing it, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Look,
The
Minnesota.
point of my call, Tom, the point of my call is if we're going to call out people, let's call out the Democrats too, Matlock. Tom, should we have let the flow of drugs continue into our country and kill our kids? Or should we have gone after the president of Venezuela that had a bounty on his head forever until the brave men and women?
You raise an interesting point about Venezuela and Maduro. Okay, but do you feel, for example, that we should get involved in Iran right now? Do you?
I think the best offense is a great defense. And we finally got a president that says enough. Enough being taken advantage of, enough people draining us and pouring corruption into our country, and we're going to try to do something about it. Did you ever hear of ICE under Biden? No, because we weren't doing anything other than opening the border and saying, "Come in, bring whatever garbage
the
you
one
want."
person that I still think we could bring charges against was his Secretary of Homeland Security, who is a complete buffoon, who did absolutely nothing, who lied to the American people and repeatedly said that the border was secure when it wasn't. I forget his name now, but that individual should be charged with fraud and lying to the American people. I agree with you. Biden did nothing for the border, and again, unless you're pro open borders, it's hard to argue that Biden did much of anything for the border or anything else. I mean, Biden was a disaster. I find it incredible that you have people who are posting saying that the economy, the U.S. economy, was better under Biden than it was under Trump. Okay. Gas prices are down, price of eggs are down, price of orange juice is down. Things are moving in the right direction. We're getting lots of foreign investment in the United States, and comparing Joe Biden with Donald Trump is no comparison. And if I were Donald Trump, I'd quit making that comparison, because you're comparing yourself to one of the worst presidents in U.S. history. So quit making that comparison. That's one of the reasons why I say Donald Trump needs to learn to shut up. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. You can't make that comparison. Biden was a disaster, but does the United States need to get involved in Iran right now? It's not because they threatened us. It's because Trump has said that he doesn't like what's going on there. I don't like what's going on there either. But should we get involved in Iran? That's the question.
I think that Trump, obviously, I don't agree with everything he says. And yes, sometimes he ought to stop and keep his mouth shut. But I think,
should.
as the president of Venezuela stood up there and boasted, "Hey, come and get me," what happened with that, Tom?
Absolutely. Look, what happened there, there was a war and there's some justification. But for us going after Iran right now, or going after some of the other countries that Trump is talking about, I'm not sure that we have the same justification. And you know what? You can dislike Ron Matlock all you want, but he has a valid point. And from the standpoint that he served in Vietnam, and he did serve this country, and he served in Vietnam, and just like Walt, they both say they were there at a time when nobody wanted us there. We were in a war that nobody wanted, including the people that we were there to supposedly protect and to save. The Vietnamese didn't want us there either. And Ron has said it and Walt has said it. And I don't think Ron and Walt, you can put them in the same category on too many issues, but they both agree that we were not wanted in Vietnam. And so when Ron talks about not wanting to go into other countries, you have to consider the fact that he's a Vietnam veteran.
Tom, not every caller that calls this station that was a veteran waves that flag and plays that card every time. Okay? My problem with Matlock is he can't face the corruption in the Democratic Party. It's Trump, Trump, Trump every time. And you just said it. This country is a lot better off now than it was under the Biden administration, the open border, the crime, the drugs, the disease coming in. And Matlock can't admit that. I'm tired of hearing him every day just talk down about Donald Trump and the things Trump's trying to do. Trump is trying to correct a lot of the baloney that happened under Matlock's party, and Matlock won't admit it. So, Ron, cut the crap.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Call.
All right, 845-1100. We have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead. Good morning.
I firmly agree with you, Tom. Mayorkas and AutoPen both need to be charged with treason for their part in opening up that southern border. There's the blood of a lot of people on both of their hands, and that was the most treasonous act I believe ever committed in U.S. history. But
and by the way, let's not forget they not only left the border open, but they allowed some of the worst individuals on planet Earth to enter this country. So I brought this up before. You can say what you want about you don't like these ICE raids. Well, why don't they occur down in Florida, where I'm currently broadcasting from? The reason why is because Florida, when they arrest you, if you are here illegally, they turn you over to ICE. As soon as you're arrested, they turn you over. We don't have any demonstrations. We don't have all of the uproar that's going on in the Chicago area or in Minnesota. And there are plenty. I mean, the majority of population in South Florida is basically Cuban, Mexican, Honduran, Venezuelan. And you talk to those individuals of those, those nationalities, and they tell you, as I've brought up before, I know a woman from Honduras who told me the reason why there are no problems down here is because Florida does it right. If the person's here illegally and they break the law, they're sent back. End of story.
Yeah, the story relates to the previous caller calling with the potential Leering Center situation. Yes. We may or may not have here in Northwest Indiana. That poses an interesting question. I noticed another business that kind of follows those same traits. I think it could be argued that WJOB is the Leering system of AM radio. What do you call it? Dietlow took all of that federal grant money, all that relief money, and that radio station is only operational half the time. I'm starting to believe there's some kind of conspiracy there as well. We need to file a, what do they call it, a FIFO or whatever it is, and open the books on WJOB. D'Lo got a lot of money, and that guy is not even on the air a quarter of the time. What's up with that?
Well, I again, look, it's fun to have some fun with Judd, and I didn't even pick on him this morning. You didn't see his outfit, so he's basically got a head covering on. He's got a jacket, and then he's got his shirt tails hanging out from underneath his jacket. But I didn't pick on him this morning. I thought, nah, he's going to get me on the air. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. But you wonder about these. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Was he off the air again today?
No, he came in early to make sure that I got on the air. So that was very nice of him. And then we talked for a few minutes, and he said he was going to go over and work out. But, back to these so-called learning centers, or it's kind of more fun to call them leering centers. You see them all over Northwest Indiana, and you have to wonder how many of those are getting federal dollars, because, and especially this was a Democratic agenda. We're going to make daycare affordable for everyone. So we're going to fund all these centers and allow all these entrepreneurs to open these facilities. And you see the facilities, but you don't see kids there. And it does raise a red flag in my mind. And I never thought about it till that caller from Dyer said, look, I've got 2 of them in Dyer, and I never see any kids there. And I think that really has to be followed up on.
I think we would all be naive to believe it's not more widespread nationwide and not just centrally focused in Minneapolis. It just so happens a astute 22-year-old did the investigative work that other people weren't willing to do, and he cracked that story, and I commend that guy for that. We need to take a look at Gary. Drive through Gary. I mean, that's the corruption center of the world anyways. Look at all the leering centers that are in Gary. Hey, you know what? This weekend I'm going to have some free time. I'm going to take a drive. I'm going to drive through Matlock's neighborhood and see what's going on out there. I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
All right. Thanks so much for the call. Thanhanks so much. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got more callers, so we'll go to the next caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I got a new name for Gary. It's Gary. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello? Is it?
Go ahead.
For Ron Matlock, it's Geralia.
Geralia?
Geralia, like Somalia. I'm sure Ron's going to appreciate that one. But anyway, I heard that the Trump administration, you know how they did the Venezuelan 2.0 regime change? I heard that the administration is going to start doing that. They're going to start at the governor level. I heard they're going to snatch up Gavin Newsom, and they're going to do regime change for the states. And then after the regime change for the states with the governors, then they're going to go down to the large cities. So they're going to get Mandami, and they're going to get the guy in Chicago, and they're going to get all these other. So yeah, it's just beginning. It's just the start of
can
it.
You first of all, can you imagine even trying to, they call Gavin Newsom, they say Gavin Newsom slimy. I mean, do you talk about a slick Willie? That guy, he is a slick individual. He says he's going to make America like California again. The last thing anybody in America wants is to be like California with all its problems. I mean, he's not going to turn America into the natural wonders that California has. He's going to turn America into a disaster, which is what California is. If you go out there, you talk to anybody who lives there, and they bemoan government in California. They say locally, statewide, it's a disaster. And Gavin Newsom has the audacity to claim that he's going to run for president of the United States and turn America into California. What a disaster that would be. And I don't know that any jail would want Brandon Johnson. I think they'd be afraid to have him because he's just too stupid to be in jail.
There's a lot of room down in Guantanamo. I think that's where Trump's going to take him to.
Yeah, but would Brandon Johnson would Brandon Johnson even know? Would Brandon Johnson, is he smart enough to know that he'd be in Guantanamo? Would he actually be smart enough to figure that out?
I don't know, but it's a topsy-turvy world right now, and it's like anything's possible. So I don't know. It's like a free for all. But yeah. Anyway,
let me ask you this. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think we should take action in Iran?
You know what? From what I've been hearing, we're spread so thin now that they really don't have the resources to put over there right now. So I don't think we're in a position to do it right now. Because we got the fleet down, outside of Venezuela. It's my understanding that we're spread kind of thin, so I don't think it's going to happen. From what I've heard. So I don't know. But as far as going into Iran, no. Yeah, I think it's there's just too much. We got too many irons in the fire. We're spending money over there in Ukraine now, in Venezuela. I just don't think it's possible right now. But who knows?
Yeah. Good points. Hey, thanks for the call.
Okay. Yeah.
845-1100 is the number to call. We've got another caller. We'll take that caller, and then we'll probably do a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Tom,
yes.
Excuse me for calling back, but whenever anybody say anything about Ron Matlock, I'll answer it. I don't have a problem with that. This gentleman, I don't know, what's this gentleman name, Ron Matlock, accused me of supporting Johnson in Chicago and all that stuff. What's his name?
Well, here, let's cut right to the chase because we're going to have to go up to a break, Ron.
Okay.
What is your position? What is your position on the corruption in Minnesota? What's your position on the corruption in Minnesota? That's really what he was raising the question. So why don't you answer that?
Okay. I don't know. Like I say, I think it's not good, but I don't have all the facts there, so I'd rather not say. I don't like.
Well, Ron, come on. You don't have all the facts, but everybody basically knows now that you have all these Somali immigrants that came into Minnesota and basically have defrauded the government, running these so-called learning centers that no kids are going to. So, what's your opinion? If those allegations are true, what's your opinion on it?
Okay, let's say if that's the case, it's bad. Okay, I want to just. I don't agree with it. Okay, it's bad.
Would you want to see those people? Would you want to see those people prosecuted?
If they are found guilty, of course, yes.
All right. And what about Governor Walz? What about Governor Walz, who has claimed that he knew nothing about it, but he's known quite a bit about it? What about him?
Walz and the mayor and all those people, if they should be prosecuted if they found right. Absolutely.
There you go.
Let me just say
there
this.
You go.
Let me just say this. Nothing in my lifetime I've seen something so bad that happened in insurrection. Right now, and Donald Trump become president of the United States, he had a person, the vice president, go hang him. He didn't say it.
Okay,
but he didn't
Ron,
say to his.
Ron, wait a minute. You're telling me, Ron, you're telling me that the insurrection was worse than the rioting that occurred in 2020 that decimated downtown Chicago, that decimated all these other areas. You're saying that the riot on January 6th was worse than any of those. That's what you're telling me.
You know why I think why it is. The insurrection, what you talk about overthrowing the government. Mike Pence did his job. He did his job. And because right now, Donald Trump, the hate, see, what needs to happen in America, we need a president say, we'll be a president for all people. So when he went in, basically, he was talking about, and he had a lot of blacks voted for him, a lot of Latins voted for him. And what a big mistake right now, what I'm saying right now.
But
do you think, and I asked you this question before.
Ron, wait a minute, Ron. There were more African-American males who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 than voted for him in 2020. Significantly more.
Okay.
So 2020, look, January 6th was a bad mark on this nation. I'll give you that. But there have been other insurrections. There have been other insurrections that have been just as bad. There was one in 47 involving some Puerto Rican extremists. There have been insurrections in history. And what happened in this country in the summer of 2020 with all the riots that occurred and all the looting that occurred and the decimation of downtowns, that was really bad too. And you need to agree on that.
Tom, that was bad, Tom. That was terrible. I didn't agree. It was terrible. I didn't like it. But right now, I think Donald Trump has an opportunity to say to America, we want to try to bring right now, if you got him preaching, what about all those people who were given a pardon after they got out? They were trouble. What about those people? Was that right for them to do this?
Well, here,
was it right?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. We're going to go to break, but I'm going to leave you with this, Ron. And I appreciate you calling to clarify, because I knew for a fact that you were not saying that those people in Minnesota shouldn't be prosecuted, and you said that on the air. So I'm glad that you called. But did you hear Donald Trump's comments yesterday on CBS? When he was asked about Renee Good, the woman who was shot by the ICE officer in Minnesota, and the reporter from CBS asked him, said, "Are you aware that her father was a supporter of yours?" And Donald Trump actually said basically what you just said. He said, "Look, we're all Americans," and he said, "I'm sorry that you lost her life. She probably was a very nice person." He actually showed some real empathy. That's a change in Donald Trump, and I'm hoping that he continues that. And we're going to leave it right there, and we're going to go to a break. Thanks for calling back, Ron. 845-1100 is the number to call. I know we've got people that want to talk. We're going to be right back after these commercial announcements. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJLB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM.
Want to live life at max volume? Then look no further than Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana. With over 1,700 slots, 80 table games, live entertainment, and 5 restaurants which span a wide range of culinary genres, we are sure to have something for everyone. Whether you want to indulge in a savory dish at Council Oaks Steaks and Seafood, or take in dinner and live music at the world-renowned Hard Rock Cafe, amplify your entertainment experience at Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana, just off Exit 6, I-8094. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9 with.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
All right, we're back, and I want to give an update on traffic. Traffic's a disaster this morning across the line in Illinois. Indiana, we're fine. In Illinois, it's a total disaster. The Bishop Ford all the way into the Ryan is a solid backup now from 115th on north all the way to the Circle. The Eisenhower, the Stevenson, the Kennedy all look really, really bad this morning. Your best bet is going to be, if you're going into the city from Northwest Indiana, take Lakeshore Drive. 294 is great if you're trying to get around the city until you get to O'Hare, and then there's some backup there as well. So not a great morning for traffic in Northwest Indiana and the Chicago market. I know we've got a couple of callers, so we can go right to the calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. How are you today?
Fine. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm well.
Yes,
I'm well. Yeah, there's a little delay. That's why people are questioning, like, if they can hear you.
Yeah, we're still trying to work out the bugs. It's a new computerized phone system. So they got rid of the old phone board, and there's a slight delay, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to say, hey, I totally respect Ron's service to this country, his service in Vietnam, and anybody who has served the country. But
well, you as well.
For him to,
served as well. So you deserve a lot of respect as well.
I had a rough hangover once in the military from too much German beer. So that's about the extent of my danger zone. But he continues to say that this so-called insurrection, which was basically a peaceful protest that people walked into the Capitol. Very good comparison here, where you have the entire media, Hollywood, all the typical leftist liberals going out and talking about how, they mourn this Renee Good lady who ran her car into a officer. We can compare that pretty dramatically to Ashley Babbitt being shot when she poked her head into a window, and a coward put his revolver up and shot her in the neck, and she bled out there in the Capitol. No one mourns her. Everyone basically said that she deserved it. And I did say something last week on this radio station that I guess got a little bit of raised a little animosity amongst other callers, said that I had no humanity and stuff. I said, if I was in that situation, I would have shot her too. And I think most officers would, because they want to go home at night.
Let me jump in for a second. One of the worst parts of the so-called January 6th insurrection was the fact that the Biden administration spent millions upon millions of dollars and basically garnered a massive amount of federal law enforcement resources to focus on tracking down anyone and everyone who attended what began as a rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2020.
Yeah.
2021.
They geofenced the entire city, and anybody whose phone was in that city got questioned by the FBI.
Yeah, and the fact is we've never done that for any other protest, for any other gathering in America, and that was wrong. That was completely and totally wrong. If you want to talk about the tragedies of January 6th, that was one of the worst.
Not only have we never done that before, but now when they've had these BLM riots and other riots that have come from the left, law enforcement, FBI, DOJ under Biden basically said, we don't have that technology. You did for the January 6th, protests, but you don't have it for the BLM riots? That's ridiculous.
Look, what if right now we use that same technology and we rounded up all the people who went to the No Kings rallies or who were out protesting about Renee Good, even though I find it incredulous that people are still arguing that she basically there was no intent on her part to hit that ICE officer, because you can see the video that shows that he gets hit.
Why don't we take your hypothesis a step further and throw all those people in jail for 400 days, 500 days, without any kind of court action or anything like that? How many people would be upset about that? If President Trump allowed that to happen, they'd be freaking out in the streets. But yet that same scenario happened to people who were at the J6.
I agree with you, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because that was a true tragedy for us to spend those kinds of resources and to go after all those individuals. Again, people have the right to protest. If you broke into the Capitol, if you broke into the Capitol and you did damage, you deserve to be prosecuted just like anybody else. But you also should have been prosecuted for the so-called Summer of Love in July 2020 when they destroyed North Michigan Avenue, which hasn't recovered, when they destroyed communities like Minneapolis, which hasn't recovered. Those And you can't tell me that you couldn't find one person. How many people have they prosecuted for the riots and the looting in downtown Chicago from 2020? I believe the number is less than 24.
Well, Tom, they have actually found the people and arrested the people. Then they get into the system, and these, activist judges release them. The prosecutors say, "Oh, there's not enough here for a case," and they release them. That's what happens. You also have an alderwoman in Chicago who I forget her name now, who sat there and said, "Don't worry about the looting on North Michigan Avenue. People just need to get it out of their system, and the insurance companies will pay for it." Really, that worked out really well, Mont, because the vacancy rate on North Michigan Avenue is 30%. The vacancy rate on State Street is 50%. And that's current, by the way. Yeah. To your earlier caller who speculated there might be Leering centers across Northwest Indiana, I just asked my go-to AI about this, and it said, hey, it's not just Minnesota. There's active investigations going on in Columbus, Ohio, and Seattle at the moment. In fact, in Seattle, there's more than 500 learning centers in one building, which is basically a strip mall. It might be even like one of those post office boxes. I don't know about that yet, but I'm doing some more research. But even like the former Major League Baseball pitcher, John Rocker, took this cause up, and he started going to these learning centers where he's from, I think in Atlanta. This is widespread. It's widespread. It's scaled corruption, and it is linked to the Democratic Party. There's a lot of good evidence that shows that 35% of all this fraudulent money obtained went right back to the Democrats through their online donation portal. This is going to blow up in their face, and I cannot wait. And unless this gets covered up, this is going to blow up the entire Democratic Party. And I don't think it just happened in Minnesota. It's happening in Northwest Indiana. It's happening in Marion County. It's happening wherever there are Democrats. They are allowing this to happen.
And the sad thing is that the mainstream media largely continues to ignore the story. Okay, I don't give a rat's back end who's at fault here. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. You could be an independent. You could be a socialist. You could be a conservative. I don't care. If you are defrauding our government, if you're taking our tax dollars and not using them in the manner and means in which they were given to you, then you should be prosecuted. And to me, it's terrifying. And it was a Democratic agenda to build all these learning centers. We're going to fund all these learning centers. We're going to make kids smarter than ever. We're going to be able to allow kids to be there so that mom and dad can go to work. It sounded great. It sounds like a great idea. And people took advantage of it. And if they did, they should be prosecuted and put in prison. End of story.
Hey, Tom, I want to ask one more thing before I let you go. There is a story circulating from Florida, and I know you're in Florida, so I just wondered what the local news is covering down there. Has there been any information about this racial murder of a 64-year-old who was in his back garden gardening and was basically shot execution style by an African American? It was out of Ocala.
I've not heard about it. I have to apologize, but we just got down here Sunday night.
This is just another example. This is just another example of the mainstream media covering not covering stories that don't go along with their narrative. I mean, you have all kinds of these really hateful racial situations. The stabbing of the young lady on the bus in North Carolina, the tossing of gas on somebody in Chicago. You don't hear about this stuff on the national news because it doesn't go along with the narrative. They say, well, we're trying to protect the racial. No, you're not. You only want stories that talk about how certain demographics are hateful and stuff like that. You don't want to cover the news. And
Well,
I find it
there is some
telling.
good news. There is some good news when it comes to the national media that basically, the new ownership of CBS by the Ellisons, and they're going after Warner Media, which basically owns CNN. There may be a change, but I haven't seen it yet. I've been watching CBS. I like this new guy. He's a nice guy, but I haven't seen a lot of change yet.
Yeah. I find it pretty telling that when you see these demonstrations around the country right now for Renee Good, it's mostly like baby boomers. And the reason is because they haven't figured out how to get their news from any other sources. They're still watching mainstream media, CNN, and I don't know what they even call MSNBC anymore.
Well, all I can say is the baby boomers, you're right. A lot of the protesters are baby boomers, and my generation did a lot of damage to this country that everybody else is going to have to pay for and clean up. So I'll leave it there with you, Mont. Thanks so much for the call.
Bye.
845-1100. I think we have some more callers. We'll take a couple more calls and we'll go to a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Just real quick again, Tom. Just Mont mentioned January 6th and Ashley Babbitt getting shot in the neck, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, the man that shot, the guy that shot her, Michael Byrd, look it up. You can look this up. Look it up. He defrauded the government in the tune of $170 or $190 million. And guess how he did it? Him and his wife were running a Leering Center out of their house. Look it up.
I'm going to. I'm looking it up right now.
Once $170 million or $190 million. Mr. Michael Byrd, the guy that shot Ashley Babbitt, right out of their house, the Leering Center.
I'm looking it up right now, and I'm waiting for it to come up. So, again, it to me it's shocking that you have all of these people who are defrauding the government, and again, the mainstream media generally is ignoring it. Mont's right about that, and you're right about it. They're ignoring the fact that that all these people are basically taking advantage of you and I who pay taxes for no good reason.
Yes, and everybody that pays taxes that is not outraged by this, what is wrong with you? You pay taxes, and this is what they're doing with your money. Your money. It's baffling. So I'll let some other callers get in here.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll take one more caller and we'll go to a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah. How you doing, Tom?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're talking about the summer of love, George Floyd riots. Kamala Harris was actually raising bond money to get these people out of jail. She was on a talk show saying, "Don't stop." It's my contention that all of this stuff, even what's going on today with ICE, is funded by the Democratic Party, their NGOs, even January 6th. I think a lot of those bad actors that are actually violent on January 6th were either or government agents, entities of the U.S. government, like the last caller you had, the guy that shot Ashley Babbitt was on the take. So the D.C. is rotten to the core. And Trump is not up against the Democratic Party. He's up against the machine. The machine wants him gone because he's doing things like wanting to audit the Fed. And this is why they hate him so much. It's not because he used to be a Democrat and now he's a Republican. It's because he's upset in their apple cart. And as far as I'm concerned, if you want to just connect the dots, if you look at January 6th and what went on, and now this case against that kid that's fully planted a bomb is falling apart. They had him on surveillance video a mile away doing his DoorDash job when the guy was actually planting bombs. And the way I heard it, it wasn't a guy anyway. It was a Capitol Police woman. So
they originally thought there was a Capitol Police woman involved, but they did catch the guy. They're pretty confident that they caught him. He was not part of the Capitol Police. And I've just got to say, for the previous caller, I just did a quick search on Michael Byrd. I have to do a deeper search, but from what I'm finding so far, the allegations about him and the daycare center are all found on Facebook. In fact, Fox News says that they found no proof of it. So I'm going to say that that's one of those where they've created a lot of phony stories, because all of the stories that exist on Michael J. Byrd running a comeback Facebook is fraught with false stories. People make up things. They say, the World News Organization has found, and it's some guy in his basement, and I just don't see any proof of it. So I'll keep on looking, but I don't think that one's true.
Well, as far as this kid that they're hanging this bombing on, the kid's autistic, supposedly grilled him for 6 hours. The kid, by him, he's being double-teamed by cops. He folded up and confessed, and now he's saying he didn't do it at all. And they've got him on surveillance video a mile away when the bombs are being planted. But if you look at the video of when the bombs were planted, supposedly from what I heard, the forensic information has been put together on the gate or the walk of the person planting the bomb, and they identified it as a Capitol Police woman. And that goes right along with what I'm talking about.
Hold on a second, because too often we believe a lot of conspiracy theories. All right, Kash Patel, who is Trump's hand-chosen FBI director, says that the guy that they have in custody for the bombs is legit, and that's the person who did it. And so, if what you're saying is true, what you're saying is true, then Kash Patel, Donald Trump, and everybody else is in on the fraud.
Well, up to a point, yeah. Kash Patel has obviously been compromised. So was Bongino. And Trump, I'll tell you what, one thing I think about the cover-up of this Epstein thing, it's got nothing to do with Trump going to Epstein Island. He's covering up for the Mossad. Israel is running a honeypot operation, and God forbid we ever expose that. Jonathan Pollard, who was the worst spy in U.S. history, he was taking our troop dispositions in NATO and turning them over to Israel, who sold them to the Russians back in the 80s or something like that, in return for Jewish immigrants allowed to leave Russia for Israel. And he was caught, and Trump in his first administration pardoned Pollard. He's a national hero in Israel, and he just said recently that any person of Jewish ancestry, his number one loyalty is to Israel. Whatever country you're in is secondary, if not even tertiary. That the number one thing is Israel. And Trump has demonstrated in his last two administrations that he cannot do enough for Israel and Netanyahu. And I think really, to just connect the dots on this thing, the reason that none of this stuff on Epstein is coming out, he's got to keep this face going of Israel being a good buddy there in the Middle East when it's doggone near as rotten as Washington, D.C. is.
Well, look, I appreciate your call and I appreciate your opinion, but I really think that that when you look at some of the damage that's been done, I think Robert Hansen, for example, certainly is worse than Pollard. Pollard was no doubt a spy that sold us out, but I think Robert Hansen did a lot more damage on the United States than anybody else basically in recent history. Look him up. So there were some real damaging. And Julius Rosenberg, by the way, who for many years they claimed was not guilty, he was guilty. According to records from the old Soviet Union, he was guilty in helping pass atomic secrets to the Soviets after World War II. So I think there's some people that make Pollard look like a schoolboy.
And of course, it goes on and on and on. The dancing Israelis at Ground Zero 9/11 were videotaping the attacks in progress. How does that happen? When he got arrested, they shipped him home, found out they're all Mossad agents. They got a hero's welcome and went back home. How is it that they were able to videotape the attacks live and actually were high-fiving each other and partying when the planes went into the Twin Towers? How did they have prior knowledge?
There's a lot of evil in this world, and I think we've been duped for a long time. But I also wouldn't buy into every conspiracy theory, just like the caller who said that Michael Byrd was running daycare centers. everything I'm finding, including from Fox News now, says it's just not true. So, there's stuff that you read on the internet that's just not true either. So, hey, got to take a break. Thanks so much for the call. All right, why don't we do just that? Let's take a break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJLB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and the last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Teen parents face overwhelming challenges, but with the right support, they can build bright futures for themselves and their children.
Mental Health America's ETAP program provides education, mentorship, and resources to help young parents graduate.
Right now, your donation goes twice as far. Thanks to a generous match, every dollar given up to $30,000 is doubled, but only until March 31st.
Scan the QR code, visit MHANWI.org, or mail your check to ETAP Match today.
Before Notre Dame Federal Credit Union, we were being charged various maintenance fees and various check writing fees for all of our accounts. And with Notre Dame, we don't have that. We have that true community partnership. We get interest based on all of our parish and school accounts, and the interest rate is really second to none.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its third generation providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
All right, we're back, and I want to get back to a couple of messages that I've gotten. Mark from Holbert, always great to hear from him. He said that you're getting a huge amount of grapple right now over at U.S. Steel, so that freezing snow and rain is headed in your direction this morning and this afternoon, and there's supposed to be some lake effect snow, which looks to be that it could amount to a pretty decent amount, actually, 4 to 5 inches. And then Mad Mac, you're wrong. I'm not eating popcorn. I'm actually eating something healthy for a change. I'm eating raisins, believe it or not, or grapes. Grapes, excuse me. Yeah, they're going to be raisins if I don't eat them. I'm eating grapes this morning, so just wanted to clarify that. So 845-1100 is the number to call. Traffic is a disaster this morning. Lynette, do you want to do weather? I'll give you a chance to get set up there, but I think we should do weather. It looks like we may get some lake effect snow later this morning and this afternoon in Northwest Indiana.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 36 degrees with highs of 40 and lows of 15. Sorry, I just pressed something. Okay. With highs of 40 and lows of 15. We'll be having periods of snow this morning up to 1 inch, otherwise cloudy, windy, and colder. Later tonight, we'll be having some strong winds subsiding. And then tomorrow and Thursday, we'll be having highs of 26 and lows of 22. Should be breezy in the morning, otherwise chilly with some sunshine giving way to clouds. And then Friday, we'll be having highs of 35 and lows of 18. It should be breezy with snow and flurries.
And just to rub it in, folks, the high this afternoon in Pompano Beach is going to be 79. There you go. 845-1100. If you didn't dislike me before for my comments, you're going to hate me now for the weather. So let's go right to the callers. We have some callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Glad you're there and not here. Just to let everyone know, I'm in Chicago Heights, and the visibility is less than an eighth of a mile. It is really, really snowing, so yeah, it's coming down. And I just pulled up the satellite, and it's gonna be this way for a few hours. It's gonna be coming down. So I'm glad you're there, and I was there for a couple of weeks. Kathy and I flew out on December 19th and didn't come back till the 4th, and had a great time, and the weather's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is, and you're absolutely right. I'm looking at the weather radar right now for the Chicago area, and it just looks like it's going to continue pretty much all day. You're just going to have
you see that little bit of rain,
squalls coming off Lake Michigan all day.
Yeah, that little bit of rain that just came through Valparaiso, which is now it's east of Valparaiso, and the rest is snow after that. You and the callers they covered a lot of ground today. And there's the number one, all the people I talk to, no matter the political party, they're like, why isn't the two largest concentrations of illegal undocumented workers and people are California and Texas, right? And I'm like, that's true. Why isn't ICE, knocking on doors in California or in Texas? It's because California is the 5th largest economy in the world, and it's primarily agriculture. And so is everyone thinks of Texas as an oil state, right? And it is, but it is huge agricultural state. No different than there's supporters of Arizona and New Mexico that are huge agricultural states too. That's sort of my theory. I mean, you can't start messing with the 5th largest economy in the world, especially when it's in the United States. I'd like your opinion on that.
But hold on a second. Hold on a second, because that's not correct. They've had plenty of ICE raids in Los Angeles, for example. You're forgetting that there was a whole issue of the National Guard actually being sent there. So they've had some raids there. I agree with you. I think there's a pass that's given for seasonal migrant workers to pick the crops in Texas and California. I do know though that Texas has a very similar approach to Florida, which also has a lot of agriculture, and they don't have these great big protests and these riots breaking out, largely because when they arrest somebody and it's determined that the person's here illegally, they turn them over to ICE, and that's part of the problem with Minnesota, with Illinois, especially Chicago, with New York and California, which is they refuse to do that. They claim they're sanctuary states, and that's a problem. And again, the conversation I had with a woman last fall when I was down here from Honduras, and she's here legally, and so is her sister, and she said, look, the people that are down here that are here illegally, no one bothers unless they break the law. If they break the law, they do something bad, they ship them out, and that's how it should be. And I kind of agree with her on that.
Oh yeah, and so do I. Being in the Keys for a couple of weeks, I always knew there was a lot of Cuban immigrants in the Keys. Oh my gosh! And I was in Key Largo for 2 weeks, but we met a tremendous amount of people came here legally, right? From Venezuela. Right. A lot were in the Keys. So I wasn't surprised with Cuban immigrants. I was surprised with Venezuelan immigrants. I was really surprised at that.
There are supposedly about 500,000 Venezuelan immigrants in South Florida alone. So if you take basically Miami and Broward County, they say there's about 500,000 living here. And I know that before I got here, they were celebrating, and they had all kinds of celebrations, street celebrations down in Miami and other areas over what happened with Maduro. And a lot of them would like to go back. However, a lot of those Venezuelans that live here were actually granted asylum because of the problems that were going on in Venezuela. So they actually are allowed to be here. They didn't come here illegally. There are plenty of Venezuelan gang members who Venezuelans will tell you should have never been allowed to come here. They came through the open borders under Biden. And, those are the gang members that you hear who are just horrible, who stabbed the one girl in the chest in Lowell a couple of years ago. Those are people that you want to round up and send back. That's for sure.
Oh, sure. it's going to answer one of your questions. Should we be in Iran? Should we go to Iran? And my answer is going to be no. It's going to be no. I just want to circle back because that was one of your lead questions. I'm going to say no. We've been there, done that in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. And what happened? See, and this is going to sound so peculiar coming out of me. Democracy isn't for everyone. Okay? When you're talking about a tribal nation that has been that way for 5,000 years, they're going to have to figure it out. These regime changes, and the U.S. policing the world is, to me, is a huge question mark. Look what happened. Afghanistan is a perfect example, right? We tried to liberate that country, and we tried to push democracy on them, and then we left, and then the Taliban came, and they run everything now. And I think the same thing would happen in Iran and Iraq. So I'm a big no. We've been to the Middle East. I know the military industrial complex, is frowning what I have to say, because peace doesn't pay. War pays. Peace doesn't. Peace has never paid. Two things that pay.
But you made a great point.
And sex.
Okay, but you made a great point, which is democracy doesn't work for everyone. And it's true. It doesn't. It doesn't. And it sounds great, and we love America and we love our way of life, but it doesn't work in a lot of other countries. And this idea that we're just going to go in there and we're going to impose our way never works. We fail. We fail more times than we've ever succeeded. It didn't work in Vietnam. It didn't work in a good portion of Southeast Asia. It hasn't worked in the Middle East. It reminds me of a story that I used to tell when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. She went to a conference on women's rights, international women's rights, and I believe it was held in Italy. And she admitted that she was almost laughed out of the room when she started talking about women's rights, because some of the European nations even said, well, what are you talking about? This idea that you don't look at women and you don't comment about their appearance. And the Middle East said, well, they just jumped all over her and basically, ruined her presentation. And the point is that our values in the U.S. are completely different than they are overseas. Do I want to change our values? Absolutely not. Would I like to see our values adopted, especially as it relates to appreciation and respect for women? Sure, I do. But do I think it's going to be likely? Probably not, because they have different views.
I mean, that's been their culture, right? That's been their culture forever. I mean, even still in Saudi Arabia, if a woman is unfaithful to her husband, you know what happens to her, right? They put her on the 50-yard line in a soccer field. They put her in a 50-yard line in a soccer field and behead her.
Right. And is that right? Absolutely not. You're not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's right. I mean, but that's what they do. That's what they do.
You steal something? My son-in-law was in Qatar. There's virtually no theft in Qatar, because you know what happens if they catch you stealing something?
They chop
your hand off. Exactly. And your entire family is disgraced. So I'm not saying, that is brutal. I mean, that's just brutal stuff, though. But they've been doing it, and that's their culture. And I'm just going to circle back around and finish and repeat myself by saying democracy is not for everyone.
No, I agree. I agree with you. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tom. Bye.
845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Bill from Lowell. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Bill?
I can't complain. I just sent you that picture, 126 in Torrance.
Yeah, I was just going to comment about it. Bill sent. Wait a minute, Bill. You sent me a photo, and you're at 126 and Torrance Avenue, and basically it's a whiteout.
Yeah,
it's a whiteout. Wow.
And I just I'll be in Naples end of March, first week of April, so I can't wait to get down there. I hate living in Northwest Indiana anymore, but I got to finish my living here, I got 25 years in its union, so when I retire, I'm headed south, permanently. So I heard you guys discussing which president was for all the people. And I did a quick Google search, so take it for what it's worth. It come up with Washington, Lincoln, Eisenhower, and Reagan. Now, as a Trump supporter who I voted for 3 times, I am not happy with the current situation with Mr. I am peace, but we're invading other countries and, regime change wars or regime change stuff, whatever you want to call it. It's not a war yet, but take it for what it's worth. That's not promoting peace. Now, I did see Chuck Schumer on it was a clip on Instagram. So, hey, it could be wrong, but in 2020, he's announcing, why didn't we go after Maduro and arrest him back then? But now it's a crime. It's a problem, So
Right.
What I'm calling to tell you is, I've told Jed this before. I swear to you, Tom, I've lost complete faith in the system. I've seen clips of George Carlin saying, hey, the problem is our politicians, right and left, are turning the American people against each other. And as I keep looking further and further back in the past, he was right. I mean, the system's broken, and it's been broken for years. And I heard Rand Paul on Joe Rogan yesterday, and, he's talking about how we won a war in Iraq. And Joe Rogan calls him out and goes, won what war? Name which war
really.
the American people have won. We haven't won a single war. Yet we're the biggest bully in the entire world, and I couldn't agree with him more. So what I'm telling you is I'm never, ever, ever going to vote again because both parties are crooked, both parties are evil, and both parties are screwing over the American people. And the people who are against each other is because of the crooked politicians. And I'm just calling to tell you, man, I enjoy listening to you on the show. I hate hearing one-sided shows all the time. I would rather most American people open up their eyes and say, hey, this side's wrong and our side's wrong. What are we doing wrong? We keep putting the same people in all the time, just like Johnson. He'll be reelected in Chicago. Don't think for a minute he's not going to be reelected.
And it's frightful. It's frightful because if he gets reelected for another 4 years, Chicago is dead. I mean, it would be a disaster. But you're so right about this. Look, people like to narrow it down to Democrat versus Republican. The fact is that we're all being fed a bill of goods. We're being lied to in many cases about a lot of things, and it's just sad because once again, one of the reasons why a lot of people voted for Donald Trump was he said, I'm not going to commit U.S. forces unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, you can make the argument on Maduro. You can make the argument that was necessary and it was successful and it was short-lived. But now we're talking about going after Iran. We're talking about all these other things. And by the way, this issue about Greenland is very important, but Greenland is also we have a treaty with Greenland and Denmark that basically says we can pretty much do whatever we want anyway. So why are we worried about going to Greenland of all places? We already have all the control that we want.
Yeah, I don't know, Tom. I mean, there's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I spoke to my accountant, and that was just a whole bunch of malarkey, too, if you actually do the investigation on it. Sure, there is a no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. But when you speak to an accountant that actually breaks it down, it is funny what we're going to get back from that. It might turn out, let's just tell you, I'm just throwing a random number out there. I want to tell you I made $40,000 in overtime because I work a crap load of it, Tom.
Okay.
You know how much I'm going to get back on that?
You're going to get basically a relief on taxes for the first $12,000, I believe, right?
No, it doesn't work out that way. It works out on a portion of the overtime. They consider your overtime rate on your regular rate, and then I'll tell you, I say I make $40 an hour. Let's just put that out there. On my regular time, I'd make $40 an hour. On time and a half, I'd make $60. Well, they're going to take that credit of the extra 20. That's how it works out. The way the accountant explained it to me, because I've already turned myself in.
Yeah, but
basically,
Bill,
you're going to feel right off that extra $20, and out of all that overtime, you know how much I am actually getting back on $40,000?
How much?
$2,500.
Well, but look, I have to say that part of that was also the news media that didn't make it clear. I understood what he was saying the whole time. He did say that the relief would be on the overtime portion of the time and a half, in other words. That would be the relief. So it's only on the time and a half portion. It's not on the regular time, and it's only up to $12,000. But you know what? It's better than the last guy gave you, which is nothing. So
sure,
it's just like, look, it's just like that.
When that man was running for office, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Don't that sound sweet? He didn't say on a portion when he was running. You know what I mean? So that's
but you know what? It's the same. Look, it's the same. It's the same with the tax relief on Social Security. So again, 100%. There are people who
I agree.
The devil's in the details sometimes, but it's better than what you were getting before. So I'll give him that.
I get it, and I want to make it clear. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just making a point that when it's sold to us, it's sold to us like it was maybe going to be permanent. Did he tell you it was only going to be for 3 years when he was running? Because I never heard that part.
Well, there lies the problem. There lies the problem. You know, the fact is that Congress can't pass a permanent tax relief. So it's all in the details. Hey, Bill, be careful driving, because man, that looks nasty this morning. Thanks so much for the call.
Bye.
Why don't we do this? I know we've got some callers waiting, correct, Lynette? We do, but we're going to take a quick break. It's the Morning Call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB. We'll be right back.
IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors bring the highest standard of electrical work to Lake County homes, schools, and businesses. From everyday fixes to once-in-a-lifetime builds, we don't just get the job done. We get it done right and up to the highest safety standards. When you need electrical work, hire the professionals who power Indiana. Powering Indiana, Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
Do you want to get a vaccine, but it's difficult to get to your healthcare provider? Call the folks at Right Care Pharmacy. They'll come to your home, discuss your vaccination status with you, and administer the appropriate vaccine with expertise. They offer vaccines for flu, shingles, pneumonia, hepatitis A and B, TDAP, RSV, and COVID. They've been serving the Lake and Porter County community for over 11 years and are fluent in Spanish. Call Right Care Pharmacy at 219-655-5028.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
High school basketball postseason is here, with the girls starting February 3rd and boys March 3rd. Be on every game for as low as $1,500. Sponsor local. Reach millions. Visit heartlandsportsnet.com today for more information.
All right, folks, we're back, and we've got about 38 minutes left to call in this morning. We've had pretty much nonstop calls this morning, so I know Lynette's fingers are getting a little workout. Having to push those buttons, but appreciate as always your support and your help, Lynette. You're doing a great job, and thank you for partnering with me. So I did want to get that in for a second. But I think we have some more callers, correct?
We do.
All right, so let's go to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, I called in mainly to offer a lighter subject to talk about, but somebody raised the issue of the Rosenbergs, the atomic spies for the Soviet Union. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There's amongst the left in this country, it's an article of faith that the Rosenbergs were innocent, that they were executed because of anti-communist hysteria kind of thing. Not true. American intelligence had broken the Soviet coding, and they had the goods on Julius Rosenberg, who was the primary actor. His wife Ethel played a secondary role, and the FBI offered her a deal. Just say willing to testify that all you did was type some papers up under orders from your husband, and she refused. And they said, look, you can raise your two boys and that kind of stuff. She refused. Why? She wanted to be a martyr for socialism. Now, here's the really interesting part of this. My wife was originally, her family were refugees from East Germany. And when the Rosenbergs were executed, the school that she attended in East Germany, the communist states in those days, they had their pictures on the wall in the classroom with a crepe and presented to the students as martyrs for socialism. So it's the idea.
Let me just
Democrats.
Let me just bring this up, Walt, about the Rosenbergs. So the book that their sons wrote, "We Are Your Sons," I think they changed their name to Maripol, was the biggest pile of dog dung I've ever read in my life. It is so false and so fictitious. And I remember that I actually did a paper when I was in college on the Rosenbergs, and I based my opinion on several different books that I read and said, I discounted the We Are Your Sons book, and the professor gave me a B- because she said that I was not able to discern fact from fiction, and that the Rosenbergs were not guilty, and that she could prove it, and that the book We Are Your Sons proved it. And then, of course, 25 years later or 30 years later, it comes out when the fall of the Soviet Union and the release of different records shows that Julius Rosenberg was certainly part of the plot to obtain atomic secrets from the United States, and that his wife was passing the papers, and their brother-in-law, her brother David Greenglass, was complicit. They were all complicit. And I've always wanted to find that professor and send it back and say, now can I have an A? But she passed away some years ago. I actually went so far. It's bothered me for years that she wrote this lengthy comment about how wrong I was about the Rosenbergs, and that the Rosenbergs were totally innocent. And it was an example of American, the American industrial complex, military industrial complex, weighing in and making innocent people guilty and all this baloney. And I still have that book. I have it on my bookshelf back at home. And I don't display it because I think it's a great book. I display it because it reminds me of how false certain narratives can be.
Robo basketball. I like to watch NHK, which is the Japanese news and program that appears on, it's actually sponsored by the local public television. And I had kind of heard about this. I said, what? Pardon?
Go ahead.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I said it's WYIN.
Yes. This NHK is on. This was a program on January 11th. I think it was a Sunday thing. And it was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. I mean, it was amazing. These students, mainly from They were from Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, Mongolia, Hong Kong, and so forth. And they were all engineering technology students. It's amazing what those robots were able to do. I mean, they passed around. They had the dribble, they had the pass, and their shooting skills was amazingly good. But it was fascinating to watch. And apparently, this has been around for 20 years. This is the first time I actually saw a program about it.
I've basically passed through the channel. I've seen it. But I will tell you, I'm not an NBA fan. I do love college basketball. I think it's great. And I think people in the region miss out on the fact that you've got Division I basketball right at Valparaiso University, and you should go see a game. It's a lot of fun. I go to those games regularly, but I will tell you that the most exciting basketball that I've seen played in a long time is the WNBA, watching the Indiana Fever. And you know what? It's not bad watching somebody like Sophie Cunningham, who's also a part-time model, playing the game. She's great. Caitlin Clark is just a game changer. She has transformed women's basketball, and Lexi Hall and all the rest. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So I will watch WNBA. I'll watch both men's and women's college basketball. I think that any day of the week, you can have an upset that happens with college basketball, and it still makes it a lot of fun.
For those who want to Google this, it's called Robocon. But in any case, it's just disgusting the Democrats trying to destroy women's basketball. I mean, and other athletics. I mean, it just there's a place in a free market environment. The ladies have been working on this for years to build up respect and the credibility and the tenure of women's sports, and now they want to pollute it with allowing men to compete against women. It is insane. I mean, these are people like to talk about how they support, they're for women. Baloney. This is proof positive. It's all a bunch of crap.
All right, but here, take a look at this. Serena Williams, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, regardless of sex, men or women. She is phenomenal. Look at what she said about men playing in women's sports. She said, as good as she is at the top of her game, she could not compete with a man at the top of his game when it comes to professional tennis. And if you ask me, Serena Williams is truly one of the greatest athletes, man or woman, that has existed in recent times. She is phenomenal, and yet she says she can't compete. Martina Martina Navratilova or whatever it is. She said the same thing. She agreed with her and said, as good as she was, she couldn't compete. I mean, why is it that these women who have made millions upon millions of dollars, who have been, basically sought after and appreciated for years for their athletic prowess, they say that it's not possible, and then you get numbskulls who claim, no, it is possible. It's not. It's just not. So, unbelievable. Hey, thanks again for calling.
A volleyball player who had brain damage as a result of the ball being hit with the kind of power that a man can bring to the game, blasted the volleyball, hit her in the head and caused brain damage. That's exactly the point of keeping women's sports women. If you were born it's not incontrovertible. If you're born a male, you have certain genetics. If you're born a female, you have another set of genetics. Get real. Don't be. They want to talk about follow the science. This is an example. Is all a bunch of crap.
Okay, and hold on. I want to give some breaking traffic. I got this from Dave Dearman. He's absolutely right. 394 north from US 30 over in Illinois up to 8094 is moving very, very slowly, and actually north now of 8094 it is as well due to snow. There's also some whiteout conditions right at 8094 and which would be 294. and 394. There's also some slowdown now on the northbound I-65 from about 61st over into 8094. So these appear to be whiteout condition slowdowns, but be very, very careful out there. Hey, Walt, thanks for the call. 845-1100 is the number to call. We have more callers, I believe, right? We do. We have more callers, so we'll go right to those callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
What's up, Sunshine Tommy? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, actually. And speaking of sunshine, it just came out. So you know what, Mad Mac, you called it at the right time, because the sun came out, and maybe it has something to do with the fact that you just called in. But I know the weather and traffic is really bad this morning. And again, there's these whiteout conditions. You can see the pockets now showing up on the traffic maps. So be careful if you're traveling around Northwest Indiana or the southern suburbs. So what say you, Mad Mac?
Yeah, I couldn't believe. Looked out the window, man. I was like, "Holy moly, man!" I'm like, "How long is this going to last?" It's not going to accumulate to a whole bunch, but they're already canceling some flights out of O'Hare and out of Midway. So
really,
it's not going to last the whole day, though.
Wow.
Looks like maybe 2 o'clock it'll end or whatever. But it's real windy though. A lot of stuff flying by. I've seen a couple of neighbors' lawn chairs go by. So. But anyway, hey, at least you sound good down in Florida. I'm glad you're down there, and obviously your girl Lynette's doing a great job. Hey, regarding this women athlete stuff you're talking about,
yeah,
I'll give the women gymnastics, but it is what it is. Serena Williams played the 180th ranked man in a private tennis match out in Long Island. I happened to be lucky enough to play on that court 2 weeks before they had this little private match. Serena didn't score a point in the first set. Got a couple points on the second, didn't win a single game, and she quit after she was down 3-0 in the second set.
Yeah, and she admitted though. Here's the thing that I don't understand, why the mainstream media doesn't report on the fact that Serena Williams said, "I could not beat the 180th ranked man." She couldn't beat him. She said, "I cannot compete."
And he was out. Yeah. He lived in Long Island.
And she said, "I cannot compete against the top-ranked male players. There is a difference between men and women." And that was her statement. But they refused to report on that, or Martina, or any of these other professional athletes, these women who say they can't compete. I mean, even Caitlin Clark has said that there's a difference between her abilities and those of the NBA. She's admitted it, and she is one of the most phenomenal female players of all time, if not the most phenomenal player when you really look at her, although, she didn't have a great season this past year because of injuries. But I mean, you look at these female athletes and they're saying it, but the mainstream media, we don't want to offend anybody, so they won't cover it.
Yeah, they can say anything they want. The facts are what they are. I mean, with the women's national team, the gold-winning women in soccer were in training in Texas and played a high school boys team, they got their asses handed to them. They were down 7-0 at halftime.
I'll tell you one game I'll tell you a game that women excel at over men. I'll tell you a game.
Gymnastics.
It's gymnastics and sand volleyball. We have sand volleyball tournaments. What?
You put men in sand volleyball, they're going to win every single point every single time.
You know what?
They don't compete against each other.
Well, first of all, we have about 40 courts almost every other weekend set up on the beach down here, because the Professional Volleyball Association holds their tournaments right here, right across the street from me, in fact. And what's fun to go out there is there will be 40 courts. 36 of them will be women, 4 will be men. You think that the men competition, that they're just like warming up? Nobody watches them. They're all watching the women's. I'm sorry, but they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, women in bikinis. I want to look at a guy in a Speedo. I don't think so. I mean,
but I saw two Olympians, former Olympians, play a set against 2 men last year down here, and they destroyed those men. They had airtime, And that's why I'm saying that women volleyball players on sand, they have that air time that men can't compete with. It's just, I mean, it's hard to believe that you can jump up and down that many times and still be able to get 25, 30 inches off the ground. That's pretty amazing. But nonetheless, look, your point is well taken. I thought it was a very interesting hearing yesterday. I thought what was really amazing is when you listen to the questions that
Are you talking about
people
the Supreme Court?
Yes. And did you listen to it at all?
No, there was no need. It's going to be overruled. I mean,
it is, but it was interesting.
Women's sports.
But it's interesting because you get Samuel Alito, and you would think, okay, he's only going to ask questions that are going to favor basically the view that men don't belong in women's sports. But he asked a lot of very interesting questions that basically raised question of why it shouldn't be legal. And then you had Kagan, who was asking questions of both sides. And again, it's kind of like if you're on the Supreme Court, you're just going to make these attorneys, no matter who they are, no matter what your own view is, you're going to make them pay for it and be miserable the whole time. And it's almost a competition, and it's kind of a fun sport to listen to. You can't watch it, but they really rip on those attorneys, no matter what your position is, no matter what their position is.
Well, their docket is not necessarily overwhelming this time, so maybe they're just looking to put in a little extra time on these cases and that. But I mean, they're not going to allow men to play in women's sports and all this.
I think it's going to be an 8-1.
All make believe.
I think it's going to be an 8-1 vote. I think Ketanji Jackson is going to vote against the vast majority. I think Kagan and Sotomayor kind of showed their view yesterday. Kagan asked the same question that Coney Barrett asked, which is, at what cost do we make an exception for absolutely everything? And so I think that, their point was that you can't make an exception for everything. And I think that it'll be an 8-1 decision is my own guess.
And regarding your great caller, Ron Madlock, I can think of a couple things like maybe World War I, World War II, 9/11, the Black Lives Matter riots that virtually wrecked the country. Yeah, that might have been worse than the insurrection, alleged 9/11 insurrection. And I'd like to ask Ron, why when the head of the FBI at the time testified before Congress, he said there were no FBI agents in the crowd. Oh, whoops, it turns out there were 225. And why were there people there unlocking the doors and removing the barricades and letting people walk into the Capitol? Oh, by the way, Ron, it wasn't the White House, it was the Capitol. And why did the CBS and the BBC both doctor their editing, get caught doing it? Trump took them both to court and grabbed a paycheck from each one of them, and they had to admit they lied about the entire thing. I mean, and I got to ask Bill from Lowell, listen, brother, Trump put $2,500 in your pocket in your bitching, send it to WJOB. I'll go pick up the check, okay? I mean, that's insane, Bill. You got a choice between closing the borders or leaving them open like they were before. Now, I'll vote for Trump every day.
Hold on, Mad Mac. Mad Mac, hold on a second. Hold on. I think what Bill's point, and I agree with you to a point, he's getting something which is better than nothing. But I think his real point was that they sell things, no matter who the party is, they sell these things to be bigger and better than they actually are. I think that was
really?
His real point.
Welcome to politics. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. It's that's unfortunately the way it goes. I'm not necessarily pleased with either party, but this is the way it is in the United States. We got two parties.
Should we go into Iran?
One or the other.
Should we? What should we do with Iran? What do you think we should do with Iran?
I thought we did a pretty good job when Trump went in there and knocked out the nuclear thing and sent the Middle East a message of like, you think you're going to toy with the United States, you're going to keep threatening everybody. You picked the wrong day to do it because it's the wrong guy in office for you. I mean, they're slaughtering people over there. All these crazy lunatic Democrats are saying you got to get over Ukraine, you got to stop, you got to save the people of Ukraine. Is there any difference between the people in Ukraine and the people in Iran who are getting slaughtered? You want to save people or you don't? You know, what do you? It's a tough call.
Well,
I mean, I wish we could just send
my point. Send
a small battalion over there and wipe these guys out and do the best for the people that are there. But I mean, it's not possible.
My point is the same on Ukraine as it is on Iran. We don't belong there. I'm sorry, but we don't belong there. I understand that they're European, and we basically have a lot more in common with them than maybe the people of Iran. But the fact is that we don't belong in Ukraine either. We just don't. We're not the world's policemen.
Do you not wonder why Spain, England, France, or Germany, they haven't sent Russia is right on their doorstep, and they haven't sent a single troop. They haven't sent a single bullet over there in the hands of one of their own people to defend this, and they want us to take care of everything. I don't understand that. Why isn't the British Air Force over there bombing the hell out of these Russian troops?
Look, we are not the world's policemen. Okay, we have this idea that we are because we're a global superpower. We are the superpower. That's all great and good, but you know what? We can threaten people, we can do things like that, but when it comes to putting men and women in harm's way in other countries, I think it has to be for a very defined reason. Okay, I'll give Trump the Maduro incident, worked out perfectly, and if you can run those kinds of operations, fine. But as far as us going in and taking action in Iran, which to really conquer Iran right now, you'd have to actually put men and women on the ground at some point. You can't just shoot missiles in and drop a few bombs. You really have to. You'd have to go in on the ground.
That's too much risk.
Absolutely, there's just way too much risk.
Don't you think Britain or France should send some troops and their Air Force over there to defend Ukraine?
Well, I think that France and Great Britain and Germany and other countries like to talk a big game, but it always comes down to how much will the U.S. commit. Okay, when you go back and you look at how much money we have committed to Ukraine versus what they've committed to Ukraine, what's the name of Sarkozy, who said that the Europeans put 60% of the money into Ukraine. False. Okay, false. He counted in the contributions from Japan, Canada, from Brazil, from other countries. The fact is that the U.S. put the largest single amount in, and then he comes back and says, "Well, the U.S. is the largest economy and the largest superpower." So where does it say somewhere that because we're the largest, we have to put the most money into everything?
Right, but at least Donald Trump stopped that, though,
Well, Trump has continued aid to Ukraine. He has. He's continued Ukrainian aid as much as Biden.
Yeah, no. He cut it way back because he said, "Hey, you buy our weapons. We're not giving them to you anymore. You guys pay up. We'll send the weapons, and then you can transfer them to there." But
Mad Mac. We're doing what we did in World War II. We're doing what's called Lend-Lease. We say, okay, we're going to loan them to you, and then you're going to pay for them after the war. We don't get paid for a lot of the stuff we do. It's just a shame. And Trump did a few things that was great, getting rid of the international aid program that the Democrats cried over because we were giving money for such ridiculous things like, some of the ridiculous expenses that we had in Afghanistan and some of those places. But the fact is that the U.S. still shells out an awful lot of money globally, like no other country does. And we get nothing in return. If you're China and you put money out, you get something in return. They're getting the things that they want. The U.S. just comes in and says, here's some cash, enjoy it, thank you. And that's all we do. We make fools of ourselves all day long.
That's exactly what the U.S. aid program is, which is exactly what they're doing in Minneapolis and Maine and Ohio with these daycare and learning centers and all these non-for-profits. They're all democratically run money laundering schemes to use public funds to spread around to their voters to pay for elections. There's no difference between USAID, the daycare centers, the learning centers, all those little stores and these little Somali malls they got. They're all interconnected. They're all funded by the government that we pay for, that Democrats benefit from.
Well, Mad Mac, let me ask you
up,
this.
brother.
Let me ask you one more question before you hang up. Let me ask you this. The one caller this morning who called in and said, there are those learning centers throughout Northwest Indiana. I've seen 2 by me. There's 2 by him in Dyer. Doesn't it make you wonder? Because when you drive by those places, you don't see a lot of activity. Doesn't it make you wonder if we're not getting ripped off right in Northwest Indiana too?
Everywhere across the country where it's involved with Democrats, it's the same scheme every single time. I mean, it's just that simple. I don't know how these guys, every time you hear the word nonprofit, you ought to send an accountant in there, because nonprofit means somehow you got to hide the money. At the end of the year, you better make sure there's nothing left in the coffers so you get funded again. And there's no asking of proof of production. Oh,
all right. I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to leave it at this. You're saying it's Democrats. I think that the Democrats come up with the programs, but when it comes to the thievery and the fraud, the Democrats and Republicans, neither of them have a monopoly. I think both parties. I think there's plenty of Republicans that steal the money too. Take care, Mad Mac.
Democrats almost exclusively.
All right. Take care. 845-1100 is the number. I think that the fraud that's going on when it comes to federal dollars, look at the old PPP program, okay? It was started by Trump. It was going to get us out of trouble during COVID. And the fraud, the amount of fraud that's occurred with that program, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars used for uses that had nothing to do with getting us out of COVID. And there are people who basically claim they had businesses. They had no businesses whatsoever, and they still pocketed the money and nothing happened to them. And I think when it comes to fraud and federal dollars, you've got as many Republicans as there are Democrats stealing money from the federal government. I think it occurs at all levels. I got a text this morning. I can't remember from who. They pointed out some fraud with healthcare. It's in every business. If there's federal dollars available, they steal those dollars, and those dollars don't end up going to where they're supposed to be. In fact, I'll give you a great example, folks. I used to do grant work for a number of communities in Northwest Indiana, and I saw recently where one of the communities just touted that they got some money for bulletproof vests, which I think is absolutely essential for a police officer. Okay. And it's great that the federal government pays for those bulletproof vests. But the amount of bureaucracy that exists in getting that money, and then after you get the money, proving that you spent the money, is ridiculous. These are for police departments. You provide them with the statement, okay, here, this community got 100 vests, and here's how much they cost. And then they want photos of the vests. And then they want to know, well, who's wearing the vest? And they want to know, and the amount of bureaucracy is ridiculous. Okay, and I've talked to some of those staffers from the Department of Justice who runs the program, and they admit that the one woman said to me, well, this is a lot of bureaucracy, but it's how I keep my job. And every single dollar that's spent every federal dollar that's spent in this country basically is fraught with errors, fraught with fraud. And it's just sad. We don't give money to police departments. We don't hand money over to the Whiting Police Department or the Dyer Police Department and say, here, go buy some vests, or buy the vests and then we'll reimburse you. We have to have an administrator who basically is asking ridiculous questions about the vests and who wore the vests and when they wore the vests and all these kinds of things. And again, it's just an example of the kind of fraud that exists. And that's legal fraud, let alone all the people who scam the federal government. It's really, really sad. 845-1100. Do we have any more callers right now? We have one caller, the last caller of the day. Here you go. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom, it's Brad Gimbel. How you doing?
Good, Brad. You get the last call spot again.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe that I've heard Griffith saying that the January 6th thing is a fraud and it's fake. I remember when I was calling in the day of and he was telling me that I was lying again. And he was saying I was full of it. That guy from Griffith, man, I'm challenging him. I want a show. I want you or Burley moderating me. Anyway, here's the thing. Is Lynette still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Lynette is here.
Hey, Lynette, I want to ask you one question because you guys were talking about Serena Williams. As a woman, Lynette, if you were to find out that there were people parading around that might not be their sex or may have been a male, would you be upset if you found out that this was going on for years and years and it may or may not be true that a female or a male portraying herself as a female is playing tennis?
It wouldn't bother me too much personally. I know I can understand how it bothers
so you
other
don't
people,
think dishonesty?
but
Okay, so you're okay
no.
with the dishonesty?
I mean, if
Okay.
it's a
Okay.
personal
I just wanna
matter,
say-
then yes.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted your view on it, but just go ahead and take a look at Serena Williams and her Venus when they were kids, and some answers may pop up. There's some film out there when they were kids, and their father speaking about how he brought them into tennis, and just look into it because I'm not going to go too far, otherwise Griffith will get all upset. But Tom, this is very, very important, and everyone is getting distracted. The Senate's Digital Asset Market Structure Act, okay? It's a 278-page report on regulatory clarity for crypto. It's here. It's going to be signed, and it is absolutely going to bamboozle the public. It's going to screw you and me with our crypto. They are not going to let us make money off the interest of what we hold. Okay, just get into it because the banks are in bed, like you said, with the congressman. This is all one humongous snow job on us, and they're going to kill the dollar. That's why all this fraud is happening, because the people that were in on it have been transferring assets over into the new blockchain systems by stealing all this money. I'm telling you, when this thing goes off, Tom, you're going to see fraud massively. Operation Nightingale, over 7,000 Indian nurses in hospitals all over the United States have been caught with fake diplomas. And now they're going to go after and find out who the doctors are that have fake diplomas as well. We have been bamboozled as Americans. And if we are not absolutely walking to the streets with torches at this point, and I'm not inciting violence, I'm just saying we need to get angry. Who are we? What kind of country are we here? And if
Well,
we can't
again,
get together
there's
to fight
see, Brad,
fraud,
Brad, you bring up some good points. Okay,
Yeah.
there was a lot of fraud with these nursing programs. There was a guy that ran a nursing program in downtown Hammond when I had my office there. And he basically brought in these nurses, largely nursing students from the Philippines, and he was going to train them as nurses. Except that the university, whatever he called it, his college basically wasn't accredited. They didn't meet the requirements to be nurses in the United States, and he got caught. All right, he got caught. Yep. But there are hundreds of other programs that bring people in, and I can't fault an individual who lives in the Philippines who wants to come to America and become a nurse. I can't fault them in wanting to do that.
Correct.
But they come here. They come here, and instead of going to Purdue Northwest, they end up going to Brad Gimbel University. And Brad is, Brad basically is a scoundrel, and he takes their money and gives them nothing in return.
Right. Exactly, and it's really a sad thing, and it's the perfect scenario for anyone that wants to do it, because they can then create the hate. They create the division. There's this Muslim hate baiting that's going on. You cannot tell me that there aren't good people that are Muslims. I know a few of them. They would pick you up and carry you to the hospital with a cut off leg.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are Christians that are out of control. They abuse their children. They all kinds of things that are going on. Christians have been doing it forever. Lutherans, everybody. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there is a big thing going down. I mean, our own FBI is possibly, and it's going to come out right in the state of Indiana. I mean, Rokita's been mentioned, Holcomb. The FBI has been tracking people. Trafficking humans And there's a guy out there that literally almost got ran over by a car. He's trying to scream, and he's trying to get tons of protection. They're trying to get rid of him. You guys got to look into it. There's so much going on. This is the one thing that I'm sorry, and I'll end my call here. We have to be in a central repository, which means just a central place to share all of the stuff we're finding, because each and every one of us is going to find something a little bit different. And if we can put it in a community thing like a Discord program or somewhere outside of censorship like Facebook, all of us in our research putting all this together, we're going to figure it out. And it's going to come with so much clarity and so quickly that I don't want anyone to forget what's going on, because that's all the things that happened in 2020 were just almost as bad as this worldwide fraud that we're all going to find out about. And if we have to take all of our anger that they have just thrust upon us and everybody yelling at each other for the last 4 years and fix this. Otherwise, they're going to get rid of our U.S. dollar and make it a digital dollar. I mean, it's going to happen. No matter what Griffith thinks, it's going to happen, and it's almost here. He always wants me to make a bet on me and say, Brad, when's it going to happen? Bet me, Brad. Bet me, Brad. It's like, no, man, you can't bet on people's livelihoods and lives, because these guys will pull the rug on you at any second for their last penny grab of what this thing is before they unleash it on everyone. And I just want to say you have done such a fabulous job. I mean, you call on in Florida, Tom, to come out here and give us a platform. So, and Lynette, you guys are doing a great job in getting all that going too. And I just want to say, I'm telling you, this is a special place, WJOB. This is a very special place, and it's going to go down in history as that. And we're going to look back years from now and say, wow, there were some really good people trying to get the word out to everyone. Posts, callers, everyone involved. So I appreciate it. And let's just hope the snow stops, eh?
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Brad. Thanks for being the last caller. You know, Brad's right.
To the end of the hour.
This is always the delight, and it's the high point of my week, folks. And yes, I'm down in Florida, and I love being down here. But I'll tell you what, I absolutely love doing radio, and this has been a great honor to be here this morning. And Lynette, thank you for everything that you do. You keep us going, keep me in my place, tell me it's time for breaks. So thank you for everything that you do as well. And you know what, folks? What's really great is we get to redo this again next Wednesday morning, beginning at 6 a.m. So tune in next Wednesday at 6 a.m. for the morning call. And with that, be safe, be careful out there. Dave, Bill, and everybody else who sent me information about the weather this morning, Mark from Hobart, it's really nasty, so be very careful. Have a great day. Keep it tuned all day, all week to WJOB, and we'll see you next Wednesday morning starting at 6 a.m. Take care.
Becoming a truck driver doesn't have to be complicated. At Schneider, we make it easy to get your commercial driver's license and start your new career. With our CDL apprenticeship training, you'll get paid to become a truck driver in just 5 to 6 weeks and have a Schneider driving job waiting for you when you've completed the program. Plus, during training, Schneider will provide transportation, lodging, and meals at no cost to you. Ready to get your career on the road? Learn more and apply today at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strack